Chapter 49-25. Everyone's eyes landed on Lin Yi, and Zhang Zili reacted quickly. She glared at Lin Yi with murderous intent. Was it you? Kid, do you want to die? As soon as Zhang Zili finished speaking, she was about to kill him. At this time, the president suddenly stood in front of her and said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, Grandmaster Zhang, please calm down. I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation for this matter. However, if you make a move here, I'm afraid it's against the rules. This is the exclusive land of the Golden Division School Alliance. Only the Alliance can deal with this. No school or person is allowed to interfere. Or the Alliance. Where does the authority of the Alliance will be? Lin Yi nodded to himself as he listened. He didn't know this guild leader well, and didn't even know his name. He'd only heard him speak once before. But from what he'd said, he wasn't an unreasonable person. Compared to Zhang Zili and the guard captain, he was at least a reasonable person. Against the rules? Zhang Zili glared at the guild master unhappily before turning back to Lin Yi with a murderous look. Breaking the rules, huh? What if I have to kill him today? The union president's expression changed slightly. If Zhang Zili dared to speak to him like this under normal circumstances, he would have already turned hostile on the spot. But this time, the matter was too important. He could only swallow his anger and say, Grandmaster Zhang, I'll say it again. This is the exclusive territory of the academic union. Please do not make things difficult for me. Zhang Zili gave him a long look and smiled coldly. Very well then, the Alliance, the authority of the Alliance, is not to be offended. If that's the case, I'll be taking my ting to heal. Find someone else. With that, Zhang Zili picked up the smoking Chong lading and got up to leave. Wait, the headmaster's face changed again and again. After a moment of consideration, he gritted his teeth. Since it's your son who's injured, then this is Master Zhang's family business. I don't care anymore. Xing Yan and the others' hearts sank at the words, and they couldn't help but turn to Lin Yi worriedly. Even the head of the Alliance had chosen to back down in front of a woman like Zhang Zili. Didn't that mean they were doomed? Very well. The headmaster is a sensible person. Zhang Zili glanced at the Alliance leader with a smug expression, before carefully putting down Chong lading. He turned to Lin Yi with a savage expression. Kid, how dare you attack my ting? You can die now. As he spoke, Zhang Zili's entire body released a fierce and sharp aura. His strength was without a doubt. He was actually an early mountain opening stage magnate. Xing Yan and the others jumped in fright. They'd just gotten out of the wolf's den and into the tiger's lair. It was a dangerous situation when they were blocked by the Alliance's guards. But these people were only here to capture Lin Yi. This Zhang Zili, on the other hand, was trying to kill Lin Yi, and he was an early-phase practitioner. If they'd fallen into the hands of the Alliance, at least Morning Star Academy would have intervened. At least their lives wouldn't be in danger. But this Zhang Zili was obviously going to kill him to vent her anger. Lin Yi would be dead if he fell into her hands. But in contrast to the shocked Xing Yan and the others, Lin Yi wasn't scared at all. In fact, he was even feeling a little excited as he looked at Zhang Zili calmly. Zhang Zili was an elixir refiner. Even when she fought, she had the aura of an elixir refiner. This meant that her combat ability was much weaker than a practitioner of the same level. Even if she was an early-stage magnate, she was still the weakest of them all. After all, there was only one non-mainstream elixir refiner, like Lin Yi, who treated elixir refinement as a sideline. Most elixir refiners were synonymous with weak strength. Zhang Liju, the legendary elixir god, was an exception. Unfortunately, this was Zhang Zili, not Zhang Liju. Before this, Lin Yi could only run away when facing a magnate of the Alliance. But now that he'd advanced to the early stage of the Alliance, he no longer had the fear of facing a magnate of the Alliance. Especially when facing Zhang Zili, who was the weakest of the Alliance, Lin Yi's heart was stirred. The Thousand Thunder explosion, he just used to kill two mystical late-stage masters, was something that even Zhang Zili couldn't do. This opening period trash that popped up out of nowhere was a free sparring partner for Lin Yi, who'd had a huge increase in strength recently. Seeing that Lin Yi was still so calm and collected, Everyone started discussing again. Even the union's master revealed a surprised expression. He'd never looked Lin Yi in the eye before, but a mere early-stage magnate of the alliance. Facing Zhang Zili and still being so calm. This kid didn't look simple at all. Zhang Zili's smile became even colder. She didn't care what kind of background and confidence Lin Yi had. She only knew that Lin Yi had beaten her precious son half to death. Just based on this, Lin Yi had to die. But before Zhang Zili could make a move, Lin Yi suddenly called out, "Wait! Kid, it's too late for you to beg for mercy now. Since you hurt my Ting, you have to pay the corresponding price. And that price is death." Zhang Zili said coldly. For this kind of unreasonable woman, Lin Yi didn't even have the interest to look at her, let alone waste his saliva talking nonsense with her. Instead, he turned to the union's master and said indifferently, "From what you're saying, the union's master doesn't plan to intervene, right?" "That's right. Although this is the territory of the Alliance of Academies, this is a private matter between you two. As the union's master, there's no need for me to intervene." The union's master paused for a moment, his eyes filled with regret and self-mockery. "Besides, Master Zhang isn't a member of our alliance, but a distinguished guest that we specially invited to help refine pills. Since it's her family's matter, I won't interfere." Hearing this, the expressions of everyone present couldn't help but become a little strange. The Golden Alliance was an official power in the Golden Sea region, especially since this was the Thunderous Plain Island, a place exclusive to the Alliance. If it were anyone else, they would have been trampled by the guards until not even dregs remained. Zhang Zili was, after all, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was the #1 alchemist in the Yellow Steppe Sea region. Her status was extraordinary, and even the Yellow Steppe Academy Alliance had to treat her with respect. She might need someone's help in the future, just like now. Chapter 49-26. Hehe, I think you've misunderstood. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and continued to look at the alliance leader. What I mean is, even if I kill her here today, I don't have to take responsibility, right? The alliance leader was stunned and couldn't react for a moment. Everyone looked at each other. Although Lin Yi's words were easy to understand, facing a mountain opening stage giant like Zhang Zili, no matter how powerful he was, wasn't it a bit too much to say such words in public? Could it be that this person's brain was broken? Without waiting for the alliance leader to speak, Zhang Zili laughed wildly, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He looked at Lin Yi mockingly and said, "Ha ha ha ha. No wonder you dared to attack my Tinger. Your tone is shockingly arrogant. I can clearly tell you that if you are able to kill me today, nothing will happen to you. However, if you are unable to kill me, I will let you have a good taste of a fate worse than death." "Very good. I'm relieved to hear that," Lin Yi said as he stretched out his right arm. Electric arcs danced wildly on it, and his aura was released in an instant. "So you're a lightning element cultivator. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant." Seeing this, Zhang Zili's expression changed slightly. The thunder attribute was an extremely rare mutated spirit root attribute. Because of the special nature of the power of thunder and lightning, thunder attribute cultivators were synonymous with powerful and domineering almost at all times. Ordinary cultivators could not compete with them at all. If Lin Yi was not at the early stage of mysterious ascension, but at the profound ascension great perfection, Zhang Zili might have to take the initiative to retreat. Because she, who was the weakest mountain opening stage, had no chance of winning against a lightning element profound ascension great perfection expert. But now he was just a profound ascension great perfection expert. The difference in strength was enough to crush everything. Then, let me experience the strength of a mountain opening stage giant today. As Lin Yi spoke, the electric arcs on his fingertips suddenly grew into a terrifying dark blue lightning pillar. It was the newly developed Thousand Thunder Explosion. In the blink of an eye, the Thousand Thunder Explosion smashed towards Zhang Zili at a speed beyond the limits of the naked eye. The distance between them was only a few feet. Basically, the moment the Thousand Thunder Explosion appeared, it had already hit Zhang Zili's face. However, Zhang Zili reacted in time. At the end of the day, She was still at the initial phase of the mountain. Even if she wasn't good at fighting, she was still a giant-level master. Zhang Zili's reaction speed wasn't something that the crowd around her, who were at most at the initial phase of the profound ascension realm, could compare to. Plus, she wasn't an idiot. After discovering that he was a lightning element practitioner, she was already on her guard. As everyone knew, the most troublesome thing about thunder element cultivators was not their super destructive power, but the extreme speed of their thunder and lightning. Basically, as soon as they attacked, the thunder and lightning would directly hit their opponent. Even the most basic evasion was an extravagant hope. In this case, when facing lightning element cultivators, it was necessary to make accurate predictions in advance, because no one could rely purely on temporary reactions to avoid lightning. Otherwise, no matter how strong they were, they would only become a lightning target. Although Zhang Zili was not good at fighting, she was still a mountain opening stage giant after all. She still knew this most basic concept, so long before Lin Yi raised his hand, she had already reacted. In the face of the fierce thousand thunder explosion, Zhang Zili did not have the slightest intention of retreating. She was a mountain opening stage giant. How could she take the initiative to retreat in front of a mere profound ascending stage? Wouldn't that be a joke? Zhang Zili put her hands together, and before the thousand thunder explosion got close, she suddenly pushed out a super fireball. The color was not the common dark red, but extremely dazzling white. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The thousand thunder explosion and the white fireball were actually evenly matched. The aftermath of the collision forcefully sent the surrounding nascent soul stage experts flying. Only the early profound ascension stage experts were still able to stabilize their bodies, but it was very difficult. White flames. Lin Yi couldn't help but frown when he saw this. This meant that the temperature of Zhang Zili's flame was far higher than his own alchemy fire, as expected of an early mountain opening stage alchemist. Even if he wasn't good at other things, when it came to playing with fire, an ordinary giant realm expert of the same level couldn't compare to Zhang Zili. As the temperature of the pill fire increased, its color would also constantly change, from the initial red, to orange and then to gold. As for Zhang Zili's white fireball, its temperature was far above that of the gold, and its power was not to be underestimated. Looks like I've underestimated this woman. No matter what, she's still a mountain opening realm expert. If I'm not careful, I might die. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Fortunately, his opponent wasn't good at fighting. If this white flame wasn't a normal fireball, but a strong fire element skill, his thousand thunder explosion wouldn't have been able to withstand it, and he would have been in big trouble. Lin Yi was secretly shocked. At this time, Zhang Zili was actually more shocked than him. This woman was not as arrogant and ignorant as she appeared to be. She was well aware of her own strength. The white fireball just now couldn't deal with masters of the same level, but it had always been successful in killing profound ascending stage experts. How could it be evenly matched with the opponent? Although it couldn't be seen on the surface, Zhang Zili suddenly panicked a little. As an alchemist, she didn't have any powerful martial skills, and her ability to adapt on the spot was even worse. The only thing she could rely on was the huge gap in strength to crush the opponent head-on. There was no other way. But if she couldn't crush the opponent, what could she do? Kid, you have some strength. If that's the case, then I can't let you go today. Zhang Zili's expression was cold and ruthless. The stronger the opponent was, the more she had to eliminate him. Now he was only at the early profound ascending stage, and he could fight her head-on. Once he grew up in the future, it would be terrible. Is that so? Then I really have to open my eyes and see clearly. The so-called mountain opening stage giant is only SOSO. Lin Yi smiled coldly. As soon as his voice fell, his figure suddenly flashed, and he appeared in front of Zhang Zili in the blink of an eye like a ghost. After all, he was facing a mountain opening stage giant. This time, he did not hesitate to use the extreme butterfly subtle steps, just to catch him off guard. Zhang Zili originally wanted to say a few harsh words, but she quickly swallowed them back. She, a mountain opening stage giant, was actually shocked by the speed displayed by Lin Yi at the moment. Her first reaction was not to face the enemy head-on, but to retreat. Chapter 49:27. If it was any other early-stage mountain opening realm master, when faced with Lin Yi's sudden attack, they would definitely not retreat half a step. They would definitely use their absolute strength to suppress Lin Yi head-on, and then slowly crush him to death. How could they retreat so easily and be thrown into confusion? However, Zhang Zili was not an idiot. After subconsciously retreating for a moment, she quickly reacted. Retreating like this would only increase the opponent's arrogance and make the opponent stronger. After a long time, she might really fail miserably. You're looking for death. Zhang Zili's palms once again condensed white flames. As she opened and closed them, they formed a long stream of fire. She wanted to take advantage of the situation and kill the approaching Lin Yi. Unfortunately, before she could make a move, Lin Yi had already flashed to the other side like a ghost. Ignoring absolute strength, in terms of battle awareness, even 100 Zhang Zili would not be Lin Yi's opponent. Her every move was within Lin Yi's expectations. Zhang Zili's attack missed and instantly revealed a small opening. However, Lin Yi did not take advantage of the situation to use the Thousand Thunder explosions. If he used the same move too many times, it would be easy for the opponent to figure it out. Moreover, it was rare for him to encounter such a weak early-stage mountain opening realm martial artist. Of course, he had to take advantage of this opportunity to test it out. In the past, Chang Lading was simply too weak. At the very most, he was only able to test out the 4 elemental martial techniques before he could no longer hold on. Since his son was useless, then it was his mother's turn. She was a good opponent that had delivered herself to his doorstep. With a dragon's roar, Lin Yi's trump card, the killing aura of the 5 elements, finally showed itself. After all, the opponent was a giant of the opening mountain stage, and it'd be looking down on him if he used a 4-element skill. The killing aura of the 5 elements was just the beginning. Moreover, this was not a normal 5 elements killing aura. Zhang Zili didn't have much battle awareness, but he had good eyesight. He could tell with one look that this killing aura of the 5 elements wasn't something to be underestimated. Even if it didn't look as frightening as the 1,000 lightning explosions, it was definitely more profound than the 1,000 lightning explosions. Insignificant skill. Although he said so, Zhang Zili did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. He hurriedly sent a white fireball to meet the murderous aura of the 5 elements. When the two collided head-on, everyone thought that there would be a loud bang like at the beginning, but unexpectedly, Lin Yi's 5-element murderous aura did not even make a fart movement, and was directly crushed by the opponent's white fireball. From the start to the end, he did not even expend the slightest bit of energy, let alone fight on par with his opponent, like he did with the 1,000 lightning burst earlier. Everyone in the surroundings couldn't help but be taken aback. After the 2 spectacular confrontations from before, they had subconsciously regarded Lin Yi as a tyrannical figure that could rival Zhang Zili. After all, from these 2 confrontations, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Instead, he was leading Zhang Zili by the nose. But this time, the gap in strength between the 2 sides was immediately exposed. This merciless Bei Dao might barely be able to exchange 1 or 2 moves with Zhang Zili, but any more than that would be impossible. After all, he was only at the early stage of mysterious ascension. Ha 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 ha. I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you're just a good-looking but useless embroidered pillow. You're exhausted so quickly? I haven't even warmed up yet. Zhang Zili sneered proudly. However, what she didn't realize was that at this moment, the Alliance Master and the Alliance Guard team's mountain opening stage experts suddenly revealed a mocking expression when they heard her words. This woman still hasn't realized the danger until now? A dignified mountain opening stage giant is actually so slow. It's really sad to a certain extent. Hee, as you wish, now we can warm up to our heart's content. Lin Yi smiled faintly. What did you say? Only at this moment did Zhang Zili suddenly feel that something was wrong. Before she could react, hundreds of 5-element murderous auras suddenly appeared in all directions. Listening to the endless dragon roars, Zhang Zili's expression suddenly changed. It turned out that the 5-element murderous aura just now was not destroyed at all. It was purely a cover. It was ridiculous that she thought that this was the opponent's full strength. Let's begin. Let me see how you warm up. Lin Yi calmly snapped his fingers, and the five-element murderous auras surrounding Zhongzili all launched attacks at the same time. The bystanders couldn't even see Zhongzili's shadow. They could only see the densely packed five-element murderous auras drowning her. The scene could be described as shocking. Zhongzili instantly became flustered. Even if she temporarily condensed the strongest white flame, it could only lock onto a few of the five-element murderous auras in an area. It was simply unrealistic to want to destroy all of the five-element murderous auras in one go. What she could do now was to quickly open up a gap, and then break out from it. Lin Yi didn't take the opportunity to attack again. It wasn't that he was intentionally going easy on her. It was mainly because the move just now had used up all the qi in his body. At this moment, he could only take the opportunity to use the jade pendant to quickly replenish his qi, while carefully observing the situation in front of him, preparing for the next move. This is a phantom. After Zhongzili fled for a moment, she finally realized that something was wrong. Not all of the five-element murderous auras were real. Most of them were just for show. A mere appearance actually deceived a mountain opening stage powerhouse like her. Zhongzili immediately gritted her teeth in anger. She was clearly played by this kid in public. The leaders of the Alliance and the mountain opening stage powerhouses shook their heads again. Although this woman was an alchemist, it was understandable that her strength was weaker than the powerhouses of the same level. However, the combat ability of a dignified mountain opening stage powerhouse was actually so poor. It really made people speechless. Most of them could see at a glance that 99% of the five-element murderous auras in Lin Yi's move were just missed without any attack power. No matter how realistic the disguise was, if one's insight was strong enough, they would eventually be able to see through the flaws. What's more, even if they couldn't see through it at once, they could infer with the most basic logic. It was impossible for so many five-element murderous auras to be real, because with the strength of the five-element murderous auras, a normal early-stage profound ascending stage powerhouse could only use 5 or 6 of them. But there were hundreds of them in front of them. Even if it was Zhongzili, she would be played around by Lin Yi's simple move of the five-element murderous aura. If it was any other mountain opening stage powerhouse present, it would be difficult for this move to have any effect at all. Chapter 49-28. Looking at Zhongzili, whose aura was in a mess, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel pity. He unleashed the five elements killing aura again, not giving his opponent any chance to catch her breath. This time, it was still the five elements killing aura. But on top of that, Lin Yi added another attribute, the ice attribute. With that, the five elements, plus the 2 elements of ice and mist, was an unprecedented 7-element skill. This meant that other than the strongest element in his body, the lightning element, Lin Yi had successfully combined all the other elements into one. It was a miracle to be able to do this in such a short amount of time. Of course, this was also because he had the foundation of the 5 elements killing qi. He could easily merge the 5 elements together. After that, the mist and ice attributes were only a step further on this foundation. Imperceptibly, the difficulty was much lower. Otherwise, not to mention a 7-element martial skill, just combining a 5-element martial skill was already a headache. You're out of tricks already? You're using the same move again? Do you think I'm an idiot? Zhongzili didn't notice the difference in the 5 elements killing aura this time, and continued to mock Lin Yi shamelessly. Unsurprisingly, her stupid reaction, which had no self-awareness, was once again looked down upon mercilessly by the mountain opening stage masters of the Alliance. At this moment, everyone was thinking the same question. How could such a stupid woman have such high attainments in the Tao of alchemy? Could it be that her intelligence and wisdom were all concentrated on alchemy, and she was a complete idiot in other aspects? You really are an idiot. Lin Yi said what everyone was thinking. You. Zhongzili gritted her teeth in anger. But it was a pity that she was once again surrounded by hundreds of murderous auras of the 5 elements. There was no way she could free her hands to deal with Lin Yi. Even if 99% of the murderous auras were harmless, she still had to be careful. If the murderous auras of the five elements took advantage of the chaos and locked onto her vitals, it would be a disaster. With the previous experience, Zhang Zili's response this time was much more relaxed. She first used the white fireball that she was best at to blast open the encirclement, and then she evaded and circled around. This was the dumbest way to deal with it, but it was not completely ineffective. Just from this point alone, using the same move a second time would be much less effective. It was a pity that Zhang Zili didn't realize that the five elements murderous aura haze this time carried the ice attribute. Of course, if any ice attribute martial skill was used alone, it would be completely suppressed by her white fireball. It would be almost impossible for it to have any effect. 7 attribute martial arts was not enough to deal with Zhang Zili. It seemed that only 8 attribute martial arts was possible. Unfortunately, the thunder attribute in Lin Yi's body was too powerful. This certainly brought him great benefits, but at the same time, there was also a big drawback, which was that it increased the difficulty of fusing it with the other 7 attributes. If Lin Yi was given a month, with his comprehension, it was enough to figure out the strongest version of 8 attribute martial arts, which might be more than enough to deal with Zhang Zili. But how could he have this opportunity now, let alone a month? Zhang Zili could not even give him the time of a stick of incense. In front of so many people, he was suppressed by a mere mysterious ascendant early stage expert. Zhang Zili, the mountain opening stage expert, had long lost his face. At this moment he was completely furious. He desperately wanted to tear Lin Yi into pieces. Otherwise it would be difficult to dispel the hatred in his heart. Boy, if you have any tricks, just use them. Why? Are you at your wits' end this time? Zhang Zili laughed coldly as he chased after Lin Yi. It doesn't matter how many tricks you have up your sleeves. The difference in strength is right here. You will die today. No one can save you. This time, Lin Yi did not answer. He just buried his head and fled everywhere, giving people the feeling that he was really at his wits' end, and the situation had become dangerous. Chapter 49-29. Huang Xiaotao's heart was burning with anxiety. She saw that Lin Yi's dodging was getting more and more difficult, and she couldn't help but want to help. She didn't care if the opponent was a master of the mountain opening stage or not. As long as they did harm to Lin Yi, they would be her mortal enemy. But Wang Xingyan quietly pulled her back, shook her head and whispered, "Watch carefully, we can't interfere in a battle of this level." But Huang Xiaotao understood this as well. They wouldn't be able to help Zhang Zili if they interfered with their current strength, and they might even drag Lin Yi down. Even so, they couldn't just stand by and watch, could they? Were they just going to watch Lin Yi fall into a hopeless situation like this? He never does things he's not confident in. Since he said that, it means that he won't lose. At least he won't be at a disadvantage. Let's open our eyes and watch. Wang Xingyan smiled and shook her head. She knew Lin Yi too well. If Lin Yi didn't have this confidence, he wouldn't have attacked Zhang Zili just now. He would definitely think of a way to use the Morning Star Academy's name to solve this problem as much as possible. Really, Huang Xiaotao was still a little worried, but she didn't have any intention of interfering. Since Wang Xingyan trusted Lin Yi so much, she had no reason not to. While the two girls were talking, it was unknown whether it was because Zhang Zili was getting faster and faster, or because Lin Yi was getting slower and slower, but the situation became more and more dangerous. Lin Yi narrowly avoided the white fireballs a few times, causing the surrounding people to exclaim. Everyone knew that this white fireball was not to be underestimated. Once touched by it, it wouldn't just be a problem of getting injured. The whole person might turn into ashes. Zhang Zili was a mountain opening stage powerhouse after all. And this was not a joke. What's this kid doing? Others couldn't see it, but the leader of the alliance could clearly see that Lin Yi wasn't as passive as he seemed on the surface. He seemed to be preparing for something. He should be exhausted. After all, he's only at the early stage of the mysterious ascension realm. No matter how strong he is, the true chi in his body is a shortcoming that he can't overcome. The guard captain at the middle stage of the mountain opening realm frowned. The surrounding mountain opening stage giants also nodded. Today's battle was an eye-opener for them. They had never seen such a powerful early-stage mystical ascendant master. But even so, none of them were optimistic about Lin Yi's chances. To be honest, Lin Yi had used so many powerful moves in succession, but he still had the strength to dodge, which was already beyond their expectations. If it was an ordinary early-stage profound ascension expert, not to mention continuing to deal with Zhang Zili, he would have long exhausted his qi and died of exhaustion. Maybe, but I have a feeling that this kid is not that simple. The Alliance Master shook his head thoughtfully. His strength was far above everyone else's, so he was naturally able to see things more thoroughly than everyone else. However, he really couldn't think of any backup plan that Lin Yi could have left behind. This was indeed illogical. Kid, you're about to die of exhaustion, right? Haha, I've just finished warming up. Today, I'll let you have a good taste of despair. I'll burn you into ashes bit by bit. Zhang Zili laughed like a crazy woman. As she spoke, she finally found a flaw in Lin Yi. Two blazing white flames instantly stuck to Lin Yi, surrounding him from all directions. All of a sudden, all of his escape routes were blocked. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's expressions changed at the same time. They believed in Lin Yi, but the situation was too dangerous. The two girls almost wanted to attack at the same time. However, at this moment Lin Yi, who was trapped in the middle of the white flames, smiled instead. There was no panic in his tone, and he still seemed calm and composed. That's such a coincidence. I've just finished warming up, so I can start to get serious. You're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. Die. Zhang Zili didn't believe Lin Yi's bullshit at all. Under her control, the white flames pressed down on Lin Yi from all directions, drowning him in a sea of white flames. Lin Yi didn't even look at it. He suddenly raised his hands and shouted, "Thunder Burial! Thunder Burial!" Everyone present, including the Union Master, was shocked when they heard this name. They all looked at each other in confusion. The Thunder Burial was a specialty of Thunderous Plains Island. However, the sky was clear and boundless. Where was the slightest sign of a thunder burial? Ha 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 ha. Acting all mysterious and boasting shamelessly. You think someone like you can get a thunder burial? You're not that strong, but you sure know how to bluff. Zhang Zili laughed coldly. However, before she could finish laughing, the originally cloudless sky suddenly surged with winds and clouds. Following that, a gigantic pillar of lightning that was comparable to the weight of 10 people came crashing down. The previous 1,000 thunder explosions was only dark blue, but this time, the gigantic pillar of lightning was shockingly tinged with a faint purple color. Zhang Zili didn't even have a chance to react. She was hit on the spot. It was also a lightning-type killer move. If the previous 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was said to be shocking, then the thunder burial that descended from the sky this time completely stunned everyone present. Even the Alliance leader and the mountain opening stage powerhouses were shocked and speechless for a long time. In front of the power of the thunder burial pillar, Zhang Zili's white flames didn't have the slightest resistance. Just the aftermath of the thunder burial easily flattened it. Even Lin Yi was sent flying. This is a thunder burial? After the guild leader regained his senses, his face instantly turned green. He had been watching the show from the sidelines. When he saw Zhang Zili being defeated by Lin Yi, he even felt secretly happy. After all, this woman was really annoying. If he didn't need her help, how could he, the guild leader, be so humble? But although he was secretly happy, the guild leader definitely couldn't let anything happen to Zhang Zili, especially under his watch. Otherwise, if Zhang Zili really fell, who would refine pills for him? Like everyone else, the guild leader still underestimated Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi had the upper hand at the beginning and forced Zhang Zili into a panic, he still didn't think that Lin Yi could cause any substantial damage to Zhang Zili. No matter how difficult the process was, Zhang Zili would have the last laugh in the end. Chapter 49:30. In reality, before Lin Yi used the thunder burial, the situation was indeed within the president's expectations. That was why he could be so relaxed and not worry about the situation getting out of control. But at this moment he was dumbfounded. He never would have thought that Lin Yi could actually activate the thunder burial. What was going on? Although thunder element cultivators were very rare, With his experience, it was not like he had never seen one before. In conclusion, they were indeed much stronger than ordinary cultivators. But activating the Thunder Burial? Was this something that a normal person could do? Not to mention a mere early-stage mysterious ascending realm cultivator. Even a mountain opening stage cultivator, who was mainly thunder element, couldn't use such a heaven-defying method. Right? There was still a glimmer of hope for those legendary thunder element spiritual beasts. But this brat was obviously a human cultivator. The president's eyesight was not so bad that he couldn't even differentiate between a human and a spiritual beast. As suspicious as he was, the guild leader still saw through some clues. He'd felt that something was wrong from the moment Lin Yi kept dodging. And now that he thought about it, it was clear that the kid was using the opportunity to store up a big move. Zhang Zili, that stupid woman, didn't know anything about it at all, and let the guy unleash that shocking lightning burial. After all, he was the strongest person present. What the president guessed was right. Lin Yi did indeed do this. This thunder burial was simply an upgraded version of the Thunder Thousand explosion. However, he used the profound meaning of the vital energy bomb and continuously condensed all the power of thunder in his body to form an ultimate move. One should know that what was hidden in Lin Yi's body was not only his own power of thunder. There was also the powerful electricity left by the purple lightning from the resentful spirit. In addition, Lin Yi's endless vital energy was transformed into the power of thunder. After combining the two, all of it poured out in the form of the vital energy bomb version of the Thunder Thousand explosion. The effect was astonishing. There was no other way. Facing a mountain opening stage cultivator like Zhang Zili, he had to use this almost extreme method. Otherwise, he could only make the opponent embarrassed like before, but not hurt her at all. Of course, if Zhang Zili had been replaced by other giants in the mountain opening stage, Lin Yi probably wouldn't even have the chance to use this ultimate move, let alone defeat his enemy with one move. Unlike the Thousand Thunderbolt explosion from before, not only was Thunder Burial far more powerful than the Thousand Thunderbolt explosion, but it also lasted much longer. After Zhang Zili was struck, his entire body was sucked into the air. He twitched and struggled madly, and there were even scalp-numbing howls of pain mixed in. Lin Yi nodded secretly. The life force of a mountain opening stage powerhouse was indeed strong. If it was a profound ascending stage powerhouse, even if it was a profound ascending great perfection stage powerhouse, they wouldn't even be able to withstand the ultimate move of Thunder Burial. They would probably be turned into ashes in the blink of an eye, but Zhang Zili could still show such suffering. At a time like this, suffering was also a form of strength, because those who were not strong enough would not even have the qualifications to endure suffering. At this moment, Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. He had been paying attention to the alliance leader in the distance. Although this guy said that he wouldn't intervene in the beginning, Lin Yi didn't believe such nonsense. Sure enough, the alliance leader finally couldn't hold back and made a move. However, he wasn't aiming at Lin Yi. Instead, he raised his hand, and a cyan arrow-like force forcefully split Thunder Burial in half. At the same time, the alliance leader's figure flashed. Others felt as if he hadn't moved at all. But there was one more person in his hand. It was Zhang Zili, who was hit by Thunder Burial. So strong. Lin Yi was secretly shocked by this scene. Rumor had it that the alliance leader was a master in the earth opening stage, which was above the mountain opening stage. Now it seemed that it was true. Otherwise, if he was only in the mountain opening stage, even if he could deal with Thunder Burial, he wouldn't be able to do it so easily, right? But even so, the alliance leader still couldn't save Zhang Zili. At this time, this woman's body was emitting black smoke, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. It was exactly the same as the two unlucky Chancellor and Chang Lading. The whole audience was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. If Lin Yi defeating two profound ascending late-stage masters was still within the scope of their understanding, then this scene had completely exceeded the limit of their understanding. A profound ascending early-stage master, crossing a whole realm to defeat a mountain-opening stage magnate master. When did the world become so crazy? This was not only unbelievable, but it completely subverted common sense. Not to mention seeing it, they had never even heard of it. Speaking of which, the East Continent itself was a place where geniuses gathered. Geniuses who could challenge above their level were very rare in other heaven stage islands. But here, there were a lot of them. It was not uncommon for a profound ascending stage master to defeat a mountain opening stage magnate, but those were all well-known profound ascending great perfection stage masters. How could a mere profound ascending early stage do such a thing? Only Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's expressions were relatively normal. Although they were worried for Lin Yi, they knew that fighting an enemy that was a whole level higher was nothing out of the ordinary for Lin Yi, even though it was shocking to others. But for Lin Yi, it was nothing out of the ordinary, since he could do it in the past. Now that he had become a profound ascending early stage master, defeating a mountain opening stage magnate was not strange at all. Looking at Zhang Zili, whose life and death were unknown, the alliance leader was dumbfounded for a moment. After a moment, his face became gloomy, and he looked at Lin Yi coldly. "Kid, what do you mean by this?" A suffocating pressure followed, and Lin Yi was even more certain of this person's strength. He was indeed not a mountain opening stage magnate, but an earth opening stage master. Nothing. Since she wants to deal with me, naturally, she has to be prepared to be dealt with by me. Lin Yi's expression didn't change at all as he looked at him calmly. Plus, as I said before, I even confirmed with the guild leader before I made my move. I asked if I would take responsibility if I killed her, and she said no. This is something that everyone can see. Could it be that the guild leader still wants to stand up for her? His words were reasonable, and the people who were watching from afar nodded. At the time, they thought that this guy was just bullshitting, but they didn't expect him to actually have the strength to kill Zhang Zili. What a freak! Although the North Island's overall strength wasn't that strong, it had produced quite a number of heaven-defying characters. Shanghai Tianhua, Zhang Liju, these were all famous characters in the East Continent, and it seemed that there would be another legend of the North Island from now on. Chapter 4931. However, he really did need Zhang Zili's help. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so submissive before. But now, Zhang Zili was emitting black smoke from his body. What should he do? No matter what, you were the one who started this. Now that so many people have been injured, and even Master Zhang is lying on the ground, you have to give me a reasonable explanation, the Union Master said in an unpredictable tone. That's right. This matter was really unexpected, for people had been knocked down by this kid, and all of them were from the Tripod City Academy. Chang Lading, the young master with a strong background, two late Mysterious Ascension Academy chancellors, and now Zhang Zili. This was a big mess. If he couldn't give an explanation, he might as well give up his position as the president of the Academy Alliance. He could ignore everything else, but he had to at least give a satisfactory explanation to the Tripod City Academy. After all, it was one of the most influential Golden Stage academies. Moreover, he had something to ask of them. Explanation. Lin Yi looked at the president without batting an eyelid, and asked with a deep meaning, "I wonder what kind of explanation the president wants? You can't be thinking of using me as an apology, right?" The guild master's heart skipped a beat. To be honest, the thought had popped up in his head for a moment, but he pushed it down immediately. While he had a favor to ask from Cauldron City, he wasn't stupid enough to offend Lin Yi, an early-stage mysterious ascending expert who could defeat a mountain-opening stage giant. The significance of this was too great. There was no doubt that this kid's future was absolutely limitless. Not to mention becoming a mountain-opening stage giant. Even if he was on equal footing with him, the leader of the alliance, it would be a matter of course. If he offended Lin Yi today, unless he was ruthless enough to eliminate him completely, he would be making himself a great enemy for no reason. A great enemy who could possibly surpass him in the future. If it was just potential, it wouldn't be a big deal. The number of super geniuses who had died in his hands was at least 80. Nipping a threat in the bud was a common thing in the East Continent, so it wasn't enough to scare him. What the alliance leader was truly worried about was the other meaning. A genius like Lin Yi was definitely not someone that could be nurtured by ordinary forces. He must have an incomparably powerful background behind him. Perhaps it was one of the few who stood at the peak of the yellow Class C region. This was the most frightening part. If he made a move against Lin Yi today, he might not even have to wait until tomorrow before a super powerhouse standing at the peak of the 5 heaven-rank islands came to have a heart-to-heart talk with him. He still wanted to live for a few hundred or 1,000 years. After some thought, the Alliance president finally suppressed this dangerous thought and asked, "Which academy are you from? Your academy's qualification to participate in the next path of the tyrant trial is revoked." Instead of making a move against Lin Yi himself, he would make a move against the academy behind him. This was the safest way he could think of. He could use it to fool the Tripod City Academy, and he wouldn't really offend Lin Yi. After all, he was the Alliance president. It was within his authority to make a move against any yellow class academy, and no one else could criticize him. Lin Yi was slightly stunned when he heard this, but he immediately understood what the Alliance president was thinking. The corner of his mouth curved up slightly, and he said calmly, "I'm sorry. I don't belong to any academy. I'm from the North Island." The North Island? The Alliance president was stunned. He didn't know what had happened before, so he naturally didn't know where Lin Yi came from. He blurted out in disbelief, "Are you lying to me?" "Of course not." Lin Yi smiled faintly, and he suddenly walked forward, setting up a divine sense barrier that could prevent people from spying on them. The Alliance president saw this and knew that Lin Yi wanted to tell him something secretive, so he didn't stop him. Instead, he set up a stronger divine sense barrier as well. After all, Lin Yi's strength was clear for all to see, and his divine sense barrier might not be effective against the Alliance's opening stage masters. "I'm Lin Yi, a disciple of the Shanghai Tianhua of the North Island, and also the last disciple of the pill god Zhang Liju," Lin Yi said faintly in a low voice. "What?" The Alliance president's face changed when he heard this. Lin Yi's words were earth-shattering news, and the shock it brought him was no less than when he defeated Zhang Zili. No wonder he had to set up a divine sense barrier. One sentence brought out 2 legends of the North Island, and Lin Yi's words were indeed earth-shattering. Speaking of which, Shanghai Tianhua wasn't a big deal. Although this was a super master who had once dominated the East continent, and the Alliance president's strength was far from being on par with him, he really wasn't afraid of Shanghai Tianhua. After all, this was the East continent, and Shanghai Tianhua was far away in the North Island. There were rules among the top masters, and because of that, Shanghai Tianhua couldn't come to East continent easily, and it was even more impossible for him to seek revenge for a disciple. But the latter part of Lin Yi's words made the Alliance president's heart skip a beat. Looking at the 5 sky-class islands, the pill god Zhang Liju was a legend that could be counted with one's fingers, especially in the world of elixir refinement. This kind of influence and power was much stronger than the Shanghai Tianhua of the North Island. Plus, the Alliance president's biggest problem now was finding someone to concoct pills for him. Why did he have to lower his voice to Zhang Zili? Wasn't it because he wanted his help? One had to know that Zhang Zili was the only mystic-ranked first-level alchemist in the entire East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region. Although he had just broken through, a mystic-ranked alchemist was still a mystic-ranked alchemist. Just this point alone made Zhang Zili sit firmly on the position of the Yellow Steppe Sea region's #1 alchemist. No one could shake him, let alone the Golden Class Sea region. Even in the higher Mystic Class C region, there weren't many Mystic first-level refiners. For a Mystic refiner like Zhang Zili to appear in the Golden Class C region, out of nowhere, was something that had never happened before. Even the Golden Class School Alliance had to treat her with respect, and it was no wonder that she was so arrogant and condescending. The Alliance president had no choice but to ask her for help. After all, she was the only Mystic first-level refiner here. Going to the Mystic Class C region to ask for help was much harder than asking Zhang Zili for help. He might be the Golden Class School Alliance president, and he could do whatever he wanted in the Golden Class C region. But once he went to the Mystic Class C region, there were many people stronger than him. It was impossible to ask for help from a Mystic first-level refiner. Chapter 4932. It wasn't easy to invite Zhang Zili over, but Lin Yi turned him into this. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't pissed. If it weren't for his concerns, he would have killed 100 Lin Yis to vent his anger. But now, after hearing that Lin Yi claimed to be Zhang Liju's disciple, the guild master's eyes lit up. "You're a refiner?" The guild master asked subconsciously. If Lin Yi didn't say that, he wouldn't have thought of it in this direction. After all, refiners were synonymous with weak strength. How could there be a refiner as strong as Lin Yi? Of all the refiners with this kind of strength, there was only Zhang Liju. Perhaps even he couldn't compare to this Lin Yi. Killing a mountain opening early stage mystic ascension early stage, Zhang Liju didn't have such a heaven-defying record back then. Mystic first level. Lin Yi was a master at lying. He didn't even bat an eyelid, calm and confident. The guild master had no choice but to believe him. "Are you serious? You're not lying to me?" The guild master was shocked. With such strength at such a young age, Lin Yi was definitely one of the top geniuses he had ever seen. But this guy claimed to be a mystic first-level refiner? This was heaven-defying. If it were anyone else who said this, the guild master would have sent them flying with a slap. Randomly meeting a mystic first-level refiner in the golden class waters. Did he think he was an idiot? But Lin Yi was different. Just the way he challenged Zhang Zili was enough to impress him. He didn't believe anyone else claiming to be a mystic first-level refiner. But since it came from Lin Yi, he really had to think about it. After all, this guy claimed to be Zhang Liju's disciple. If this was true, then it wouldn't be strange if Lin Yi was a mystic first-level refiner. To be able to become Zhang Liju's disciple meant that he had to be extremely talented. In terms of status, he was even higher than a normal disciple. If someone like this wasn't a mystic first-level refiner, then it would be a problem. "Haha, with the guild master's intelligence, do you think I can fool you?" Lin Yi gave him a compliment without a trace. Everyone liked to listen to compliments, and this powerful alliance leader was no exception. The Union Master's face softened a little, but he wouldn't believe Lin Yi's words just like that. He said he was a mystic level 1 refiner, and he said he was Zhang Liju's last disciple. There wasn't even a single witness. Who knew if this kid was just trying to scare the Union Master? "Who can prove it?" the guild master asked. "Here, you can go ask that chick." Lin Yi pointed at Enai Kaiue, who wasn't far away. At the same time, he was secretly happy. Since the guild master asked this, it meant that he had taken the bait. Lin Yi, of course, couldn't be considered a true mystic first-level refiner. He had never made a mystic first-level refiner before. But this didn't stop him from using this trick to bait the guild master. He wasn't just bluffing. After all, from a certain perspective, Lin Yi's skills were far above a normal 7th-level refiner. Otherwise, Qing Danzi wouldn't have begged him to be his disciple. It wasn't too much to pretend to be a mystic first-level refiner. The reason why he suddenly used this trick was because Lin Yi saw through the guild master's weakness. This guy didn't really care about Zhang Zili's life and death. He was so humble to Zhang Zili just now. It was obvious that he had something to ask of him. Combining their identities, it wasn't hard to deduce that the mystic first-level refiner was the best trick to deal with him. After all, he was the president of the union. If he was just looking for someone to help him with alchemy, he should have a lot of 7th-grade alchemists under his command. Only a profound great alchemist could make him humble like this. To put it bluntly, from the moment Lin Yi admitted his identity, it was a trap. He lured the guild master step by step, and now, he was only one step away from success. Scaring someone was a highly technical job. Not only did he have to be observant, but he also had to find the right solution to the problem. He also had to make use of the opponent's mentality to build momentum, making sure that his cover was flawless. Lin Yi was evidently very familiar with this. "She should be in the same group as you." The guild master glanced at Enai Kaiue suspiciously. Since they were in the same group, then this woman's words didn't have any credibility. It was useless to ask. Witnesses can lie, but material evidence won't lie. Lin Yi smiled meaningfully. The guild master was stunned when he heard the words, and then he understood Lin Yi's meaning. He immediately raised his hand and pointed at Enai Kaiue and said, "You come here." Because of the existence of the divine sense barrier, everyone around could only see the conversation between Lin Yi and the guild master. but they didn't know what they were talking about. Even if everyone was itching in their hearts, they wouldn't dare to pry. After all, there was not only Lin Yi, a ruthless person who could challenge higher realms, but there was also a super master like the guild master. If they made any small movements, it would be impossible to escape the guild master's eyes and ears. At that time, they wouldn't even know how they died. As a result, when everyone was itching in their hearts, the voice of the guild master suddenly came from inside, and everyone's eyes fell on Enai Kaiwa. Ah, me. Enai Kaiwa was shocked when she saw the guild master pointing at her. She panicked and stuttered, although I'm in cahoots with him, I didn't hit anyone. Don't arrest me, don't arrest me. Everyone listened and looked at Enai Kaiwa in a daze, not knowing what to say for a moment. Although Lin Yi had long been used to this girl's magical thinking, at this time, he also had a speechless expression. What kind of thinking is this? If you really want to disassociate yourself, then don't say that you're in cahoots. In the end, you say that you're in cahoots, but at the same time, you say don't arrest me. Is this something a normal person can say? Lin Yi shook his head inwardly. It was fortunate that he'd managed to scare the alliance's leader. Otherwise the girl would have been dragged into the mess as well. That would have made him speechless. I'm not going to arrest you. I just want to ask you a few questions. The guild master frowned. If that's the case. Okay then, you said you won't arrest me. Enai Kaiwa repeated worriedly, and then carefully walked to the side of the two. Chapter 49-33. Enai Kaiwa subconsciously looked at Lin Yi, then shrunk her neck and replied, My name is Enai Kaiwa. I'm a disciple of Donghua Academy. Okay, then tell me, is he a mystic level first level alchemist? The union leader asked directly. He's a mystic level first level alchemist? Enai Kaiwa heard this and jumped up in shock. Luckily, there was a spiritual barrier around them, or else her voice would have been heard by the entire dock. You don't know? The union leader frowned and looked at Lin Yi. He thought that since this woman was on the same side, she would definitely nod without hesitation. Who would have thought that she would have this kind of reaction? I don't know, he didn't tell me. I only know that he's an alchemist. Enai Kaiwa thought for a moment, then added, A very powerful alchemist. Oh, how powerful. The union leader's eyes lit up. He was able to refine 7 profound nurturing pills in less than half a day. Moreover, he only used 4 sets of ingredients. Isn't he amazing? Enai Kaiwa's face was filled with pride as she said. Lin Yi was speechless. This silly girl really didn't have any wariness at all. Was this something that she could casually tell others? Previously, she was harassed by Chang Lading and the others, and it was not wrong at all. But then again, he had already expected this. He had asked the union leader to ask Enai Kaiwa for proof. If not, it would be hard for the other party to believe that he was a mystic level first level alchemist. After all, there was no proof for this kind of thing. He had to have enough evidence. Really? The union leader was instantly excited. 4 sets of materials to make 7 chi cultivating pills, and in less than half a day. This was definitely not something a 7th level alchemist could do. Once the truth of this matter could be verified, then there was no doubt that he was a mystic level first level alchemist. Of course it's true. I was the one who found the profound raising grass here. Here these 3 profound raising pills were concocted by him. As Enai Kaiwa spoke, she pulled out the 3 profound raising pills with an expression of fear that the other party would not believe her. Lin Yi was even more speechless. Although all of this was within his expectations, it was rare to see someone as forgetful as Enai Kaiwa. Wasn't this silly girl afraid that the other party would be tempted by her wealth? But then again, Enai Kaiwa was not really stupid. She was very careful when she took the profound raising pills. She deliberately used her body to block everyone's line of sight, only letting the union president see it. With the union president's strength and status, he naturally would not covet her trifling 3 profound raising pills. If she did not give them away, these pills would be completely useless to him. Looking at the 3 profound nurturing pellets in Enai Kaiwa's hands, the union leader sank into silence, unable to conceal the shock on his face. Of course, he knew that the path of a tycoon produced profound nurturing grass, and these 3 pellets were of high quality, full of pill fragrance. They did not seem like pellets that had been concocted for a long time, but rather recently. In other words, Inai Sayua's words could be trusted. In fact, from the moment Inai Kaiwa introduced herself, it was impossible for her to lie, because this kind of lie could be easily exposed. And once it was exposed, the anger of the leader of the union was not something that a disciple of the early stage of the mysterious ascension realm could bear. After a moment of silence, the union leader's attitude suddenly changed. He turned to Lin Yi and smiled apologetically. Master Lin, let me reintroduce myself. I am the Golden Academy Union leader, Zhuang Yifan. I was presumptuous just now, please forgive me, Master Lin. Lin Yi saw the change in Zhuang Yifan's expression clearly. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself. The big shots of the East Continent were much more snobbish than the big shots of the other Heaven Rank Islands. The big shots of the other Heaven Rank Islands all had to respect themselves and put on airs no matter what they did. However, the people of the East Continent were different. Almost every one of them had the ability to change their expressions. Lin Yi was already used to it. As the president of the alliance, Zhuang Yifan had always held a high position and was full of arrogance. He didn't even bother to let the Yellow Step Academy students know his name during the trial. That kind of arrogance was practically carved into his bones. But now, he took the initiative to introduce himself with a smile. Coupled with his previous submissive attitude towards Zhang Zili, it could be seen that this person was also someone who knew when to submit and when to stand tall. His arrogance also depended on the person. President Zhuang, you're exaggerating. From the beginning to the end, you didn't do anything inappropriate. If I were in your position, I would have made the same choice. So you don't have to worry about such a small matter. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although it was a little arrogant to talk to Zhuang Yifan in this tone, he was now a mystic-level first-level alchemist. If he didn't act so pretentiously, the other party might even suspect something was wrong. As expected of Senior Shengguan and Master Zheng's brilliant disciple, not only is Master Lin's strength extraordinary, but he also has such a rare temperament. You can be considered a role model for the young people of the East Continent. Zhuang Yifan smiled. He wasn't just flattering Lin Yi. He was truly impressed. One should know that the more talented one was, the more arrogant they were. He had seen his fair share of super geniuses. Although they were indeed outstanding, they all had their eyes on the top of their heads. Based on this point alone, Lin Yi, who knew when to advance and when to retreat, was at least 10 streets ahead of those super geniuses. President Zhuang, you flatter me. Lin Yi smiled noncommittally. He turned to look at Zhang Zili and the others who were lying unconscious on the side and said, Then what do you plan to do about today's incident? Do you need me to give you another explanation? Hee, Master Lin, you must be joking. They all brought this upon themselves. Zhang Zili also said that this was a private matter between you all. You kept saying that they died for nothing. I couldn't even persuade them to stop. This is obvious to all. Why would I need to do anything unnecessary? Zhuang Yifan was quick to turn hostile. Forget standing up for Zhang Zili. He would be lucky if he didn't step forward and kick her. Of course, this was also because Zhang Zili didn't know how to behave herself. She thought that because she was a mystic-level first-level alchemist, she could act all high and mighty, just because Zhuang Yifan wanted something from her. Based on her previous behavior, anyone would be furious, not to mention Zhuang Yifan. Lin Yi smiled. This was expected. Zhuang Yifan waved his hand and said to the alliance guards beside him, Send Master Zhang and the others back to the Tripod City Academy's treasure ship. Although this is a private matter between them, it's not right to leave them lying here. Chapter 49-34. They didn't know what the two of them were whispering about. Seeing that Zhuang Yifan's attitude toward Zhang Zili's group had suddenly become so cold, they couldn't help but be astonished. However, they didn't dare to show any neglect on their faces, and hurriedly carried Zhang Zili's group away. They were only responsible for sending them back to the Tripod City Academy's ship. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't even care if Zhang Zili and the others were dead or alive. Everyone knew that this was a hot potato, and they would avoid it. Why would they care about other people's business? Master Lin, if you don't mind, Why don't we go to the Alliance's division for a cup of tea? Let me be the host. From beginning to end, Zhuang Yifan didn't even look at Zhang Zili and the others. He was wholeheartedly trying to please Lin Yi. There's an Alliance division here? Lin Yi was slightly surprised. That's right. The headquarters of the Huang Grade College Alliance is located in Leidong City. But Leidong Plain Island is an important place for the Alliance. Naturally, there's a branch here as well. The conditions are not bad. Master Lin, you can go there to rest and relieve your fatigue, Zhuang Yifan introduced with a smile. Oh, I'll send the Morningstar Academy's disciples back first. I'll go back at night when I have time. Lin Yi nodded. Of course. I'll send you back. Zhuang Yifan hurried to please him. As the president of the Golden Rank Academy Alliance, it was hard for him to humble himself like this. However, there was no other way. Alchemists had such a high status, especially Mystic Level 1 alchemists. Even in the Mystic Sea region, they were respected guests no matter where they went. Even Magnate Realm experts like them didn't dare to look down on these people. Most of the time, they had to be as careful as they were now. After all, there was no telling when they would have to beg the alchemist for help. All right. Lin Yi glanced at him with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, and didn't hold back. In fact, he couldn't be polite even if he wanted to. Even though Zhuang Yifan already believed that he was a Mystic Level 1 alchemist, it was obvious that he didn't trust him completely. Other than trying to please Lin Yi, Zhuang Yifan was probably afraid that Lin Yi would slip away halfway. If Lin Yi were to reject him, it would only make him suspicious. Little and I, let's part ways here. We'll meet again in the future. Lin Yi turned around and bid farewell to Inai Kaiwa. Inai Kaiwa was still in a daze. She was stunned for a long time before she nodded her head. From the moment Lin Yi took care of the two unlucky chancellors, to when he went against the trend and overthrew Zhang Ziji. And now she was inexplicably being complimented by Zhuang Yifan. The series of events today could be said to be a series of shocking twists and turns. Even now, she still hadn't fully recovered from it. Seeing this, Lin Yi chuckled and no longer paid attention to this silly girl. He extended his hand and called Wang Xinyan and the others over. Under the respectful gazes of the crowd, Zhuang Yifan personally escorted them back to the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship. At the same time, the treasured ship of the Morning Star Academy was in a mess. The commotion caused by Lin Yi and the others was too big. Not only did it attract the attention of many of the Academy's disciples, but the huge commotion caused by the Thunder Burial was even more earth-shattering, causing the surrounding sea to surge. If not for the huge tonnage of the treasured ship, it would have capsized long ago. Under these circumstances, if the people on the ship still didn't know that something had happened to Lin Yi and the others, they would definitely be deceiving themselves. It was just that the two places were too far apart, so they didn't know the specifics of the situation. They only knew that Lin Yi and the others were in huge trouble. At this moment, the leader of the chancellors was burning with anxiety. Although Lin Yi wasn't a disciple of the Morning Star Academy, his position in the academy was far more important than the other disciples. If he were to fall on the Thunder Plains Island, as the leader of the chancellors, he would really have to carry his head back. The heads of the academy would definitely not let him off easily. As for the chief alchemist Qing Danzi, he would probably fight to the death with him. Fortunately, the news that they had received at this time only stopped at the point where the Alliance guards had captured Lin Yi. They still didn't know that Lin Yi and Zhang Zili, the head of the mountain opening stage, were going to fight to the death. Otherwise, the leader of the chancellors would probably faint from fear. There's no other way. The only thing we can do now is to quickly send a message to the heads of the academy. No matter what, we have to think of a way to redeem Master Lin. We can't let him be detained in this place. Otherwise, if something happens to him, I won't be able to be a chancellor anymore. The leader of the chancellors was anxious like an ant on a hot pan. He muttered as he paced around. On the other side of the ship, Bao Zuoyang and Su Kusheng, who had returned long ago, were gloating. If it weren't for so many pairs of eyes on the ship, the two of them would have wanted to start a celebration banquet to celebrate. Ever since they went for wool and came home shorn on the path of a tycoon, These two had a belly full of bad luck. If it weren't for the fact that they had some self-awareness, they might have continued to try and get Lin Yi killed on the path of a tycoon. But that was just a fantasy. Even if Bao Zhuoyang was impulsive, Su Kexing would definitely stop him. He had no choice but to stop him. He would be courting death if he went to the path of giants. But this time, the two of them didn't need to worry about it at all. Lin Yi, the arrogant, pretentious guy, kicked an iron plate himself. After coming out, he actually dared to cause trouble in public. Even the Alliance guards were alarmed. Could it be that he would still have a good ending? Hee, the Alliance guards are famous for being tyrannical and overbearing. Lin Yi, that kid, is also arrogant. Now that he has fallen into the hands of the Alliance guards, even if he doesn't die, he will lose a layer of skin. Bao Zhuoyang lowered his voice and said excitedly, "In my opinion, it's not as simple as losing a layer of skin. Maybe this guy won't even be able to keep his life." Su Kexing sneered. "It can't be, right? Even the Alliance guards won't kill people casually. It can't be that exaggerated, right?" Although Bao Zhuoyang wanted Lin Yi to die even in his dreams, he hadn't reached the point of deceiving himself. Originally there wasn't, but this time there definitely is. And I dare say that there is an 80 to 90% chance. Su Kexing said confidently. "Why is that? Tell me quickly." Bao Zhuoyang's eyes suddenly lit up. "Young Master Bao, didn't you hear what those people said just now? The person Lin Yi provoked this time is not an ordinary person. It's Chang Lading of Tripod City Academy. That's a famous person. Moreover, he even knocked out 2 chancellors of Tripod City Academy. Now that things have escalated to this point, it's already too late to resolve," Su Kexing analyzed. "But even so, he won't be killed directly, right?" Bao Zhuoyang was a little stunned. Chapter 49-35. "That's right. Great, that's great. Lin Yi is dead for sure." Bao Zhuoyang was so excited that he laughed heartily. Even if you beat them to death, they wouldn't have thought that the mountain opening stage magnate was already dead and had already become Lin Yi's stepping stone. Just as the two of them were rejoicing in Lin Yi's misfortune, their expressions suddenly froze at the same time. They were shocked to see that Lin Yi and the rest had actually returned unscathed, and there was no sign of the Alliance's guards. What's going on? Bao Zhuoyang was dumbfounded. This was completely different from what he had expected. It's indeed a little strange, but we can confirm that Lin Yi has indeed committed a crime. Young Master Bao, look, even the president of the Alliance was alarmed, and he actually personally escorted him back. It's obvious how serious this matter is. Su Kexing immediately saw through the truth. That's right, you're still the one who sees things clearly. You hit the nail on the head. I almost thought that he had escaped unscathed. Bao Zhuoyang immediately heaved a sigh of relief. As the two of them spoke, the rest of the people on the boat also saw Lin Yi and the rest. Suddenly seeing Zhuang Yifan, the chancellor who was at his wits' end suddenly jumped in fright. Without caring about anything else, he immediately rushed off the boat to welcome them. I am the chancellor of the Morning Star Academy, Li Run. I didn't know that President Zhuang would personally come, so I didn't welcome you. Please forgive me, President Zhuang. Li Run respectfully greeted him. Although he was relieved to see that Lin Yi and the rest were unscathed, Zhuang Yifan's personal appearance still made his heart tremble. Because of the previous news, he and Bao Zhuoyang had the same preconceived idea that Zhuang Yifan had personally escorted Lin Yi back. Chancellor Li, you're exaggerating. Zhuang Yifan calmly waved his hand, not in the mood to talk to Li Run. He was the dignified president of the alliance, while the other party was just a lowly chancellor. Both of them were far apart in terms of strength and status. He, Zhuang Yifan, could humble himself in front of mystic alchemists like Zhang Zili and Lin Yi, but in front of these people, he was the high and mighty leader of the Union, with an intimidating aura, full of authority. Under normal circumstances, Li Run would not have dared to speak to Zhuang Yifan. However, he had no choice but to do so. He could only bite the bullet and apologize. President Zhuang, Master Lin is an important guest of our Morning Star Academy. His participation in the Path of the Magnate was approved by the Alliance headquarters. Since he is not familiar with the rules of the Academy Alliance, I hope President Zhuang will forgive him if he has done anything wrong. Our Morning Star Academy will take full responsibility. Shoulder all the responsibility? Zhuang Yifan looked at him strangely. If Lin Yi wasn't a mystic rank 1 alchemist, he would have died 1,000 times over for what he had done. Even Zhang Zili was beaten to the point of death. How could a mere Morning Star Academy take full responsibility for this? Zhang Zili was the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy. He was the leader of the alchemists in the entire Yellow Class C region. Now that something had happened to her, even an idiot would know that the Tripod City Academy would not let this go easily. Although the Morning Star Academy was not weak, it was still lacking compared to the Tripod City Academy, which was the cradle of alchemists. If they really fought to the death, the Morning Star Academy would most likely collapse. Of course, the more likely scenario was that the Morning Star Academy realized that the situation wasn't looking good and pushed Lin Yi out for the Tripod City Academy to vent their anger, abandoning the pawn to protect the rook. However, that was based on the premise that Lin Yi was only a student of an ordinary academy. Judging from Lin Yi's feat of going against the tide and defeating Zhang Zili, this assumption was obviously unreliable. Moreover, he was a mystic rank 1 alchemist. With such an important figure, the Morning Star Academy would probably fight to the bitter end, even if it meant perishing indiscriminately. After all, as long as Lin Yi matured, he would be a heavenly protective umbrella. If the Morning Star Academy could receive his full support, it wouldn't be impossible for the Yellow Class Academy to become a Mystic Class Academy in one fell swoop. As long as the Morning Star Academy's 3 magnates weren't stupid, they would definitely protect him at all costs. Therefore, Li Ren's statement of taking full responsibility wasn't out of line. Could it be that Master Lin has made a huge mess of things? Seeing Zhuang Yifan's strange gaze, Li Ren's heart skipped a beat. The difference in their levels was too big. If the other party really wanted to do something to Lin Yi, he wouldn't be able to stop him. A huge mess of things? You could say that. To others, it would indeed be a huge mess of things. But to Master Lin, it's too much of an exaggeration. At most, it's just a small inconvenience. Zhuang Yifan smiled reservedly. He had already given Lin Yi a lot of face by saying this much. It was impossible for him to explain any further. At least, Li Ren definitely didn't have that much face. Small inconvenience? Li Ren was stunned. This was completely different from the information he had just received. Those people had said that Lin Yi had killed 2 chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy. How could this be considered a small inconvenience? Zhuang Yifan had no interest in explaining to him. He turned to Lin Yi and smiled apologetically. Master Lin, I won't disturb you on the ship. I don't think you welcome me. Although he said this, he didn't have any intention of leaving. His intentions were clear. Now that Zhang Zili, whom he had spent so much effort to invite, was dead or alive, if he allowed Lin Yi to slip away, then he would really be screwed. Compared to the Grand Alchemy plan, his reputation as the president of the alliance was not worth mentioning. Lin Yi looked at the confused Li Ren, then looked at Zhuang Yifan, who was putting on an act. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel helpless. Since Zhuang Yifan was so thick-skinned, he couldn't just play dumb and let him go, could he? He was the guild leader of the alliance, after all, and that would be too much. Moreover, Zhuang Yifan was the president of the alliance. These Huang Stage academies wouldn't even be able to invite him normally. If he was willing to board the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship, then it would be a great honor for the academy. This was a good opportunity to show off in front of all the other academies. President Zhuang, what are you saying? You're a distinguished guest that no one can invite. Since you're already here, why don't you board for a while? Otherwise, if word got out, wouldn't it damage the reputation of the Morning Star Academy? Outsiders would say that the Morning Star Academy doesn't know how to behave properly. I wouldn't dare let the Morning Star Academy take this kind of blame. Lin Yi said with a smile. Master Lin, it would be impolite of me to refuse. No matter what, I can't tarnish the reputation of the Master Lin, he. Zhuang Yifan immediately found Lin Yi to be even more pleasing to the eye. It was rare to see such a super genius. This kid's future was limitless. Chapter 4936. Just as they were about to board the ship, a familiar female voice came from behind. Lin Yi, how are you? Are you okay? Lin Yi and the others turned around and saw Hui Yudi running over anxiously. She had heard the rumor on the ship just like Li Run and the others, so she rushed over anxiously. Hui Yudi knew more details than Li Run about the disturbance just now, because there were people from Morning Pride Academy passing by. Not only did she hear that Lin Yi killed Chang Lading, the former 4th young master of Nascent Soul Stage, and 2 Chancellor of Cauldron City Academy in the late Profound Ascension stage, but even Zhang Zili, who was in the early Mountain Opening stage, was beaten to a pulp by him. Regarding this, she was shocked and proud, but she was also frightened. Just killing the 3 people in front of her was already a big deal. And the worst thing was that Lin Yi actually killed Zhang Zili, who was the only profound 1st-level alchemist in the Yellow Level C. Once the Academy Alliance dealt with this strictly, especially if the higher-ups of Cauldron City Academy came out to cause trouble, Lin Yi would be in big trouble this time. He might not even be able to keep his life, so how could Hui Yudi not come? Seeing Hui Yudi appear, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel happy and touched. But this time, it wasn't just Hui Yudi. There were 2 other people behind her. One was Lu Ziyu, the other was Ren Zhongyuan. When the incident happened, Lu Ziyu was still in her room and was dragged out by the anxious Hui Yudi. After hearing about Lin Yi's matter on the way, she was also shocked. Her purpose for appearing here was very simple, and that was to find a way to plead for mercy for Lin Yi. No matter what, she had to at least save Lin Yi's life. Although Lu Ziyu knew that this might not be useful, she was after all a Mountain Opening stage powerhouse, and the Deputy Dean of Morning Pride Academy. She believed that as long as she told Lin Yi's background, Zhuang Yifan would analyze the pros and cons. And even if he refused to reduce the matter to a small one, he should not put Lin Yi to death. Otherwise, he would offend both the North Island and West Island, and normal people would not do such a stupid thing. It wasn't strange for Lu Ziyu to appear here, but it wasn't Hui Yudi's intention for Ren Zhongyuan to come and join in the fun as well. This guy seemed to have a complicated expression on his face, but the corners of his lips were clearly showing delight at Lin Yi's misfortune. He wouldn't be Ren Zhongyuan if he didn't come and personally witness such a delightful event. Speaking of which, this guy was actually a talent. Ever since he was chased away by Lin Yi on the Path of Giants, he, Yi Xiaotian, and the others spent a long time to finally find the Thunder Tribulation Point. But among all of them, he was the only one who successfully advanced to Profound Ascension, and it was very rare that he did not use the Thunder Xian pill. Although his father, Ren Tianxua, was a 7th-grade alchemist, even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. No matter how strong one's alchemy ability was, it was useless without the Thunder Xian vine. It could not be conjured out of thin air. And rare elixirs like the Thunder Xian pill could not be bought except in large-scale auctions. Even if it appeared in large-scale auctions, the probability of it appearing was very low. And it was the same as the last Morning Star auction ceremony. Often, as soon as it appeared, it would be the rhythm of all the big shots desperately fighting for it. How could it be easy for Ren Zhongyuan to snatch the Thunder Xian pill from these people? However, the Thunder Xian pill was not necessary to advance to Profound Ascension. The Thunder Xian pill was only the first choice to deal with the Thunder Tribulation. For most people, the Thunder Xian pill was something that they could only hope for. They could only settle for the next best thing, like the 7th-grade Great Recovery pill. Although this would greatly affect the fusion of the spiritual root, as long as they were strong enough and lucky enough, they still had a chance to advance to Profound Ascension. At the very least, they could save their lives. However, what Ren Zhongyuan used was not the 7th-grade Great Recovery pill, but the top-grade healing elixir, the Longevity pill, which was refined from the longevity root. Its effect was much better than the 7th-grade Great Recovery pill. The last time he went to West Island with Yi Xiaotian and the others, the main purpose was to collect the longevity root. Relying on the almost nature-defying healing effect of the longevity pill, Ren Zhongyuan forcibly survived the Thunder Tribulation and successfully advanced to Profound Ascension. This was already considered very powerful for ordinary people, At least, Yi Xiaotian and Yao Jili, who had the same conditions, did not succeed in advancing. Until now, they were still lying in bed and had not recovered their vitality. Hee, to think that you would have such a day. God has really opened his eyes. Ren Zhongyuan looked at Lin Yi, who was personally captured by Zhuang Yifan. Speaking of which, his success in advancing this time was largely due to Lin Yi. If he had not been tortured by Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous aura, his willpower would not have been so tempered. It would have been very difficult for him to grit his teeth and endure the attack of the thunder tribulation. In the end, it was very likely that he would have failed at the last step, just like Yi Xiaotian and the others. However, Ren Zhongyuan obviously would not be grateful to Lin Yi, unless his brain was really flooded with water. While Ren Zhongyuan was secretly feeling happy, Huiyuti had already rushed forward regardless of everything. She stood in front of Lin Yi and said to Zhuang Yifan, Lin Yi was only defending himself. Moreover, it was those people from Tripod City Academy who threatened him first. The fault is not with Lin Yi, but with them. You can't take Lin Yi away. While arguing for what was right, Huiyuti kept giving her master meaningful looks, indicating for Lu Ziyu to quickly speak up. However, Lu Ziyu did not speak immediately. Huiyuti was confused due to her concern, but she could already tell that something was wrong with the situation. At the very least, Zhuang Yifan was clearly not here to cause trouble. Looking at their expressions, why did it seem more like they were here to visit? Go ahead and plead for him. This brat has caused such a commotion that even the president of the alliance has personally come to arrest him. What's the use of pleading? It will only make his death even more miserable and faster. Similarly, Ren Zhongyuan could not see the situation clearly. At this moment, he was already imagining the scene of Lin Yi being sliced into 1,000 pieces. Just thinking about it gave him great satisfaction. However, before Ren Zhongyuan could have a good time in his heart, Zhuang Yifan's first words caused his expression to change, and he almost choked to death. Master Lin, this is? Zhuang Yifan looked at Huiyuti curiously. Although he did not say any blatant flattery, his expression and posture were clearly filled with indescribable respect. This was something that even an idiot could see. Lin. Master Lin. Ren Zhongyuan immediately fell to the ground with a thud. Zhuang Yifan was the president of the alliance, and he actually called this brat a master? Fuck. This brat beat Zhang Zili to the point where he didn't know if he was dead or alive. Shouldn't you hurry up and arrest him? How the hell are you the president of the alliance? Chapter 4937. Ren Zhongyuan wasn't the only one who was shocked. Huiyuti was just as shocked. She looked at Lin Yi blankly, completely confused. This is my... Lin Yi paused, then winked at Huiyuti and smiled. My girlfriend, Huiyuti from the Morning Pride Academy. Girlfriend? What do you mean? Zhuang Yifan didn't understand the term, and he put on a look of understanding. Oh, a female friend, right? I didn't expect Master Lin to be so humorous, haha. He thought that Lin Yi was joking, so he played along and smiled. He didn't know that Lin Yi's words were like a public confession. Zhuang Yifan and the others didn't understand, but Huiyuti did. She blushed and looked at Lin Yi tenderly. She wanted to say something, but then realized that the situation wasn't right. She quickly swallowed her girlish thoughts and looked at Zhuang Yifan. Wasn't this guild leader here to capture Lin Yi? Since everyone's here, why don't we all sit on the boat? Lin Yi extended the invitation with a smile, giving Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao a look at the same time. Huiyuti and Lu Ziyu must be full of questions right now, and they needed someone to explain the whole story to them. Everyone nodded. Li Ren took the lead, Lin Yi in the middle, Zhuang Yifan purposely a step behind, and the others trailed behind. It was a lively scene. Bao Zuoyang and Su Kesheng, who had stayed on the boat to watch the show, almost had their eyes fall out of their sockets. They were as depressed as Ren Zhongyuan. It was supposed to be a perfect scenario for Lin Yi's death. So how did things turn out like this? Even though they were depressed, it was clearly not their place to speak. Even Li Run, the head chancellor, was trembling beside Zhuang Yifan, not to mention the academy disciples. They couldn't do anything other than greet Zhuang Yifan from afar. They didn't dare take a step closer, either. and could only watch as Li Run invited Lin Yi and Zhuang Yifan into the guest room. Other than Lu Ziyu, only Lin Yi and the other girls had the right to follow. What the hell is going on? Didn't you say that Lin Yi was going to die? Why is he hooking up with the guild leader? Bao Zuoyang was furious. I don't know. Logically speaking, the president should be standing up for Cauldron City Academy. After all, there's no way Cauldron City Academy would let this go. Their position in the Golden Step Academy Alliance is very high. There's no way the president wouldn't give them face. Su Kexing's face was gloomy. It can't be that Lin Yi's face is bigger than Tripod City Academy's, right? Bao Zuoyang suddenly scared himself. Maybe it's possible. Kexing suddenly thought of Lin Yi's legendary identity as a mystic stage alchemist. There was no other explanation. Damn it! Let this brat escape a calamity again. Bao Zuoyang punched the ground in frustration. He had no choice but to hide in his room and drink his sorrows. If he did not drown his sorrows in alcohol, he was afraid that he would do something impulsive in front of the Alliance Master. That would be a joke. Everyone sat down in the guest room. After exchanging pleasantries for a long time, Lin Yi had no choice but to sit in the main seat. Zhuang Yifan was here for him. If he didn't sit in the main seat, was he supposed to let Li Run sit? Li Run wouldn't dare to take the seat even if he was beaten to death. I've seen at least 80 super geniuses, but it's the first time I've seen someone as amazing as Master Lin. The North Island really is a place where masters come from. Zhuang Yifan complimented as soon as he sat down. You're flattering me, guild leader Zhuang. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't refute. After all, he couldn't say that the North Island was a weak place, could he? Plus, he claimed to be Shanghai Tianhua and Zhang Liju's disciple, as well as a mystic stage 1 refiner. He had to act tough to the end. He couldn't just give up halfway. Otherwise, it'd be troublesome if Zhuang Yifan got suspicious. Haha, Master Lin, you're too humble. Forgive me for asking. But Master Lin, are you planning to stay in East Continent for a long time? Or are you here to join the path of a tyrant? If you're interested in staying in East Continent for a long time, I have a good relationship with a few of the principals of the mystic schools. I'm sure they'll come to you no matter what. What do you think, Master Lin? Zhuang Yifan said, trying to please Lin Yi. The suggestion brightened everyone's eyes. For most of the students, the next thing they needed to think about after breaking through was how to get into the higher-level mystic schools. Not every mystic ascension stage master could get into a mystic school. It was extremely difficult, even more so than when they tried their best to get into the Golden School. The reason was very simple. Although the number of profound ascending stage masters was much less than that of nascent soul stage masters, but at the same time, the cultivation resources that could be effective for profound ascending stage masters were much less, and the competition was much fiercer. Naturally, the quota for the Xuanjia Academy was much more precious. With Lin Yi's talent and strength, he wouldn't have to worry about not having a spot in the mystic schools. However, there was no guarantee of his position in the school. If he was just a normal disciple, and not a core disciple, then it'd be a huge problem. But if Zhuang Yifan personally introduced him, then things would be different. A core disciple's identity would be unavoidable. This was much better than going to the mystic school selection alone. I appreciate your kindness, Headmaster Zhuang, but I don't have plans to stay in East Continent any longer. We'll talk about mystic schools in the future. Lin Yi rejected without hesitation. It wasn't that he didn't want to accept the favor, but he really didn't have any plans. It was the same reason why he didn't want to come to East Continent to join the Golden School. People like him could only improve faster by training outside. Joining a mystic school would restrict him, so he might as well go out on his own. Chapter 4938. Then I'll thank President Zhuang in advance. By the way, President Zhuang wants me to refine pills, right? Lin Yi suddenly changed the topic. Zhuang Yifan was overjoyed. He had shamelessly pestered Lin Yi to refine pills, but he couldn't just ask right away. That was why he took such a big detour, wanting to show his kindness to Lin Yi first. This way, he could ask Lin Yi to help him refine pills. That's right, this is a bit presumptuous, I'm being rude. Zhuang Yifan nodded quickly. Oh, then what pill does President Zhuang want to refine? Lin Yi asked. The pill that the other party wanted to refine was undoubtedly a profound level pill. Although he, a profound level 1 alchemist, was pulled out at the last minute to scare people. But he really wanted to take this opportunity to give it a try. After all, he could easily refine a 7th level pill. Maybe he could also successfully refine a profound level pill? Then he would be a true mystic class alchemist in the future. Zhuang Yifan looked at the others awkwardly. It was obvious that he didn't want these unrelated outsiders to know about this. Dean Liu, it's rare for you to come to our Morning Star Academy's ship. Why don't I accompany you around? Li Run suggested. All right, then I'll have to trouble Chancellor Li. Lu Ziyu nodded slightly, her expression a little strange. Seeing that Lin Yi was no longer in danger, she felt a little strange. After all, Morning Pride Academy and Morning Star Academy were arch-enemies. Why would she, the Vice Dean of Morning Pride Academy, come to their arch-enemy's ship? Previously, her mind was filled with how to plead for Lin Yi, and with Huiyudi's urging, she didn't even think about it. Now that she thought about it, she felt a little uncomfortable. But since she was already here, it would be too petty of her to leave now. She could only bite the bullet and continue. Li Run left with Lu Ziyu. Huiyudi, Wang Xingyan, and Huang Xiaotao also tactfully followed. Now, only Lin Yi and Zhuang Yifan were left in the guest hall. President Zhuang, there are no outsiders now. Just tell me what pill you want me to refine. Lin Yi said immediately, but he was secretly surprised. It was just alchemy. Could it be that this guy had something he couldn't tell others? Did he have to ask everyone to leave? Master Lin, the pill I would like to ask you to refine is a mystic first-rank earth solid pill. Zhuang Yifan finally spoke. Earth-strengthening pill? What kind of pill is that? Lin Yi was stunned when he heard this. Although he often flipped through some books related to alchemy, when he had nothing to do, the scope of his understanding was basically limited to yellow-level alchemy. His understanding of profound-level alchemy was almost a blank. Master Lin doesn't know about the earth-strengthening pill? Zhuang Yifan was even more surprised than Lin Yi. He suddenly had some doubts. A mystic first-rank alchemist didn't know about mystic first-rank alchemy. Could this guy be a con artist? However, he suppressed this thought as soon as it appeared. Judging from the qi-cultivating pill in Enide Sayu's hands, there was no doubt that this Lin Yi could easily refine yellow-level 7th-rank pills. His identity as a mystic first-rank alchemist should be credible. Forgive me for my ignorance, but I really haven't heard of it. Lin Yi shook his head very calmly, without a hint of guilt. Zhuang Yifan was even more certain now. It seemed like he really wasn't a con artist, who said that mystic alchemists would definitely know about all mystic pills. Every profession had its own specialties. Even alchemists couldn't refine just any pill. They all had their strengths and weaknesses. Actually, it's no wonder that Master Lin doesn't know about it. This earth-strengthening pill is indeed very rare. After all, it's not usually used. Even the merchant guilds in the Mystic Sea region don't sell it. If it weren't for my injury, I wouldn't have paid attention to this pill. Zhuang Yifan nodded in understanding. President Zhuang is injured? Lin Yi was stunned again. Yes, to tell you the truth, I am an earth-opening expert, and in the late stage, Zhuang Yifan admitted. Lin Yi's eyelid twitched slightly. Although he had guessed it, he was still a little shocked to hear it from the other party. He didn't expect this person to be an earth-opening expert. But if he was so strong, how could he be injured? Could it be that there was someone even stronger than him in the yellow-level sea region? Seeing the confusion on Lin Yi's face, Zhuang Yifan smiled bitterly and shook his head. I wasn't injured because I fought with someone. I was impatient and forced myself to break through to the peak of the late stage. As a result, I failed and suffered a backlash. Although it doesn't look like I'm injured on the surface, it has already affected the foundation of my strength, causing my current strength to be unstable. That's why I need a earth-strengthening pill. This is a pill specially used to consolidate the strength of an earth-opening expert. I see. Lin Yi nodded in understanding, then asked, so President Zhuang invited Zhang Zili here just for this? That woman is also a mystic level 1 alchemist? Yes, She is the only mystic level 1 alchemist in the yellow level C region, and she just advanced not long ago. Normally, you can't find mystic level 1 alchemists here, so they are all in the mystic level C region, Zhuang Yifan admitted. Okay, then show me the alchemy materials and the pill recipe. I will try it, there should be no problem. Lin Yi said immediately. Okay, I have the pill recipe with me, and the materials are in the Alliance branch. I will go and get them now. Zhuang Yifan nodded, and then disappeared in front of Lin Yi's eyes. After a while, he suddenly appeared in front of Lin Yi, holding a half-sized wooden box in his hand, which was filled with all kinds of precious elixirs. Lin Yi was secretly speechless. No wonder he was a big shot in the late stage of the Earth opening. His speed was really unparalleled. This is the pill recipe for the Earth Consolidating Pill. As for the materials, I have already gathered 3 sets. I wonder if I can succeed. Zhuang Yifan looked at Lin Yi eagerly. One could not blame him for being so impatient. He had already racked his brain over this matter. After all, this was different from those elixirs used to break through. It did not matter if it was earlier or later. But with Zhuang Yifan's current state, if he dragged it out for too long, it was very likely that something big would happen. It might even lead to a tragic decline in his strength. By that time, even if he could stabilize his realm, he would inevitably be unable to rise again. From then on, it would be difficult for him to advance even an inch, and it would probably be the end of his life. Chapter 4939. If the 2 refinement methods were similar, then Lin Yi didn't have to worry, since the upgraded Godly Armament Cauldron could easily refine a 7th level yellow level pill. Then he could naturally try refining a 1st level mystic level pill as well. But if the 2 refinement methods were very different, then there was no need to even try. Even if he let his disciple Qing Danzi try, the success rate would probably be much higher than his master. In terms of pure alchemy ability, Qing Danzi was actually much better than Lin Yi. It was just that he didn't have a divine alchemy tool like the Godly Armament Cauldron. Zhuang Yifan didn't dare to disturb them. After a while, Lin Yi suddenly frowned and whispered, Metal, wood and earth? What? Did Master Lin notice any problems? Zhuang Yifan's heart skipped a beat as he quickly asked. It's not that big of a problem. Lin Yi shook his head thoughtfully, but didn't continue the topic. Zhuang Yifan thought that Lin Yi didn't have the confidence to refine the earth-strengthening pill. He immediately smiled apologetically and comforted. The earth-strengthening pill is too uncommon. It doesn't matter if Master Lin fails. It's reasonable. If even Master Lin can't refine it, then it's hard for others. He was afraid that Lin Yi would think it was too difficult and change his mind at the last minute. After all, it was true that the earth-strengthening pill was very rare. Even the 1st level mystic level alchemists in the Mystic Sea region might not have the confidence to refine it. Because the demand for the earth-strengthening pill was too low, most alchemists had never refined it before. So no one could guarantee the success rate. For Zhuang Yifan, success or failure was actually secondary. The key was whether or not there was a 1st level mystic level alchemist willing to help. After all, as long as he started refining, even if he had never refined it before, there was still a chance of success. But if no one was willing to help, then there was no chance at all. With President Zhuang's words, I'm relieved. Hearing this, Lin Yi smiled noncommittally. In fact, his exclamation just now didn't mean that he couldn't refine it, but he discovered a fundamental difference between Xian and Huang level pills in this pill recipe. As everyone knew, yellow class pills didn't have any special requirements for the alchemist's own spirit root. As long as the corresponding alchemist was an alchemist, they could refine it. But this profound grade pill was completely different. Not only did it have a higher requirement for the alchemist's alchemy ability, but each profound grade pill had different requirements. Just like this earth-solid pill, it not only required the most basic alchemy fire during the process of alchemy, but it also required true qi that corresponded to the properties of the ingredients. Metal, wood, and earth were all indispensable. Otherwise, no matter how high one's alchemy skills were, they would not be able to form the pill at the last step. Lin Yi nodded to himself. Compared to Huang-level pills, The process of refining a profound-grade pill was obviously much more complicated. Also, because every pill had different requirements for the spirit root, there was a very difficult threshold. Most profound-grade first-level alchemists would only be able to refine a few types of pills, and would be powerless to refine others that didn't match. In actuality, Linny didn't know the whole picture. Although there were elemental requirements for mystic-class elixirs, it wasn't an absolute requirement. In order to become a mystic-class elixir refiner, one had to master an advanced technique unique to the refiner, and that was to simulate different elemental essences in the process of making elixirs. Because only in this way could the majority of profound-level dawn be concocted. Otherwise, if one were to rely purely on one's own spiritual root attribute, then more than half of the profound-level dawn would be lost. Take the solid earth pill for example. One must have metal, wood, earth and fire spiritual roots at the same time. Moreover, one must be a profound-level alchemist. How many people in this world could you find? Only by mastering the high-level technique of simulating the basic true qi of various elements at the same time could one meet the requirements for most profound-grade pills. Otherwise, it would be nonsense. This was a compulsory course for a profound-grade alchemist. If one couldn't master this high-level technique, then one would never be able to become a profound-grade alchemist. No matter how much experience one had, it would be useless. This was a natural chasm between a yellow-grade alchemist and a profound-grade alchemist. Many 7th-level alchemists of the yellow grade could never cross this chasm in their entire lives. In fact, not only profound-grade alchemists, many yellow-grade alchemists also had a similar technique. Back then, Boss Bai had said that as long as one used the corresponding chant, one could achieve the effect of simulating Dan fire. For example, alchemists who didn't have a water spirit root could also simulate and catalyze a water Dan fire. However, this technique could only simulate a single element. It was impossible to simulate all the elements at the same time. The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. This was like how elementary school students could easily grasp numerical calculations, but would only be afraid of advanced mathematics. The two techniques seemed to be the same in essence, but in fact, there was a huge threshold that was hard to surpass. And if it was just simulating a single element, it obviously wouldn't be able to meet the requirements of refining a profound-grade pill. Others could casually use several elements, so how could a single simulation deal with all of them? If others wanted to become a profound-grade alchemist, they had to practice this compulsory course to perfection. However, Linny was an exception. He hadn't even heard of this before, so naturally, he didn't know such a high-level technique. However, he didn't need to use this high-level technique at all, because he was a freak with 8 elements. He could naturally meet more than 90% of the requirements for refining a profound-grade pill. This daunting threshold was like nothing to him. Although Zhuang Yifan was a great master in the late stage of earth opening, he wasn't an alchemist after all. Naturally, he didn't know the various tricks involved. Seeing Lin Yi's attitude, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, it was good that Lin Yi agreed to help refine the pill. Regardless of whether this time is successful or not, I will thank Master Lin in advance. I have already ordered people to prepare a banquet to welcome Master Lin. As for refining the pill, there's no need to rush. Master Lin can rest for a while first. Although Zhuang Yifan was anxious, he didn't dare to rush Lin Yi. Instead, he acted very considerate. You just came out from the Path of Giants and fought with Zhang Zili and the others. I believe Master Lin is tired, right? Hee, then I will trouble President Zhuang. I will go over tonight. Lin Yi smiled faintly. As for the latter question, he didn't mention it. If he really told the truth, he was afraid that he would provoke Zhuang Yifan. It was better to keep a low profile. Chapter 4940. If that's the case, then I'll take my leave. Rest well, Master Lin. We'll meet again tonight. Zhuang Yifan said tactfully. He thought that Lin Yi was just worried about his image, and that was why he was putting up a front in front of him. If he didn't know what was good for him, and left immediately, it would be troublesome if this young mystic first-level refiner were to die from exhaustion. All right, let's meet again tonight. Lin Yi stood up to see him off. However, before the two left the guest room, Zhuang Yifan suddenly stopped and said, "Every year after the Path of the Magnate, there will be a celebration banquet. Every school will send people to participate. I feel that there's no time like the present, so I might as well hold it together with tonight's banquet. What do you think, Master Lin? This is a matter for the school alliance. President Zhuang can arrange it, I have no objections." Lin Yi looked at him strangely. Was there a need to discuss something like this with an outsider? Then it's settled. Master Lin, you can ask Chancellor Li to come with you. Just tell him that I saved a seat for him at the main table. Zhuang Yifan smiled meaningfully before bidding farewell to Lin Fan. Haha, this Zhuang Yifan sure knows how to act. Lin Yi smiled as he watched Zhuang Yifan leave. It was obvious that Zhuang Yifan was going to do Morning Star Academy a favor for Lin Yi's sake. Otherwise, with so many Golden Division schools, Morning Star Academy might not be able to get a seat at the main table. This was a rare opportunity for them to show their face. After Zhuang Yifan left, Hui Yudi, Wang Xingyan, and Huang Xiaodao rushed in, followed by Lu Ziyu and Li Ren. How did it go? What did President Zhuang say? Hui Yudi asked impatiently. Even though she'd heard the whole story from Wang Xingyan, she was still worried for Lin Yi. Lin Yi was only using the title of a mystic first-level alchemist to scare Zhuang Yifan. But if he came back to his senses, the consequences would be unimaginable. Nothing much. He asked me to help him with alchemy and I agreed. It's that simple. Lin Yi shrugged as if nothing had happened. You agreed? What he wants to refine should be a profound tear pill. Can you really refine it? Hui Yudi was instantly taken aback. Lu Ziyu and Li Ren also revealed bewildered expressions when they heard this. Only Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao remained calm. They were already used to it. Won't we know whether this is possible or not once we try? Lin Yi smiled slightly. With a hint of playfulness in the corner of his mouth, he said, even if it's a mystic-grade first-level alchemist, it's impossible to guarantee success every time. If I fail this time, it's also a very normal thing, right? I see. Only then did the crowd understand why Lin Yi dared to lie to a big shot like Zhuang Yifan. This was the key. If it was just a simple lie, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to deceive Zhuang Yifan. Even if he managed to fool him in the beginning, he would definitely give himself away later on. Lin Yi's clever lie was not necessarily a lie. It could very well become reality. And even if it didn't become reality, there would still be a reasonable explanation. Only with half-truths and half-lies could one be undefeatable. Right. Zhuang Yifan said that he's holding a celebratory feast tonight. Chancellor Li, he also said that there's a place for you at the main table. Lin Yi said on behalf of Li Ren. What? Isn't the celebratory feast supposed to be held at the Thunderous City headquarters after the trial is over? Why is it suddenly brought forward? Li Ren didn't react for a moment. After a moment of daze, he stuttered. The main table, there's a place for me? That's right. That's exactly what he said. So prepare yourself, we'll go together tonight. Lin Yi nodded. This is really a big surprise. Li Ren took a deep breath and solemnly bowed to Lin Yi. Master Lin, on behalf of the Morning Star Academy, I thank you for your great kindness. Chancellor Li, you're too kind. I've troubled the Morning Star Academy for so long. This is something I should do. Besides, even if you really want to thank someone, you should thank Zhuang Yifan. He was the one who suggested it. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. No, if it weren't for you, President Zhuang wouldn't have taken such good care of our Morning Star Academy. Li Ren waved his hands and explained. Master Lin, you might not know this, but the celebratory feast every year is to celebrate the path to becoming a magnate, but it's actually related to the re-ranking of all the Golden Tier academies. The closer the academy is to the main table, the more attention they'll receive from the alliance in the future, and the more training resources they'll receive. In the past, only a few of the top Golden Grade academies were able to occupy a seat at the main table. They were all like the Leidong Academy and the Tripod City Academy. Our Morning Star Academy has never received such an honor. Li Ren became more and more excited as he spoke, and by the end, his face was glowing. If he could represent the Morning Star Academy and occupy a seat at the main table, it would be entirely due to Lin Yi's efforts. But as the chancellor leading the team, he would also have made a huge contribution. When he returned to the academy, he would be rewarded handsomely, and he would be promoted 3 ranks in a row. So there's such a thing. If that's the case, then Zhuang Yifan has really given us a big gift. Lin Yi suddenly understood. He'd thought that at most it would just be a meal and a show of his face. He didn't think that there would be such a deep meaning. Zhuang Yifan was indirectly showing that he had the ability to support the Morning Star Academy. Of course, the prerequisite was that Lin Yi had to help him concoct the pills. Otherwise, he could easily crush the Morning Star Academy. Ever since President Zhuang took over the leadership of the Golden Tier Academy Alliance, he's always been balanced. He rarely takes the initiative to support a certain academy. For your academy to be able to gain his favor, it's only a matter of time before you can stand shoulder to shoulder with those top academies. It's truly a cause for celebration. Lu Ziyu said with a smile, but her expression was a little complicated. This was a good thing for both fame and fortune. For the Morning Star Academy, it was naturally a joyous occasion, but for her Morning Pride Academy, it wasn't so good. Their archenemy had suddenly skyrocketed, and anyone standing in the Morning Pride Academy's position would probably not be able to laugh. Congratulations to you too. Li Run was still immersed in his ecstasy, and only reacted after he subconsciously finished speaking. His expression immediately became extremely awkward. The other party was the vice principal of the Morning Pride Academy. Congratulations my ass. For a moment, the atmosphere in the guest hall became a little strange. As a guest, Lu Ziyu had mixed feelings, and as the host, Li Ren also had an embarrassed expression, not knowing what to say. The scene immediately fell into a deadlock. Chapter 49-41. Feel free to speak your mind. Lu Ziyu was slightly taken aback. According to Hui Yudi's relationship, Lin Yi should have called her Aunt Lu more cordially, but now he suddenly called her Dean Lu. This was most likely a major matter concerning the 2 academies. Master Lin, please speak. Li Run was also a little puzzled. In my opinion, since Chen Jiao and Chen Xing are originally one body, and there is no irreconcilable hatred between the 2, why don't I ask President Zhuang to come forward and be the peacemaker? And the 2 academies will shake hands and make peace. What do you 2 think? Lin Yi said seriously. Lu Ziyu was silent for a moment, and quickly understood Lin Yi's intentions. His desire to resolve the grudges between the 2 was actually just a pretense, and his true goal was to let Chen Jiao Academy take advantage of the situation. If he came forward to speak about this matter, then Zhuang Yifan would not be biased and only help Chen Xing, and Chen Jiao Academy would definitely be able to gain a place in the alliance. Whether it was Chen Xing or Chen Jiao, the foundations of the academies were not bad. Back then, before they had split, they were the top academies in the Huang Class C region. It was only because they had split up that they suffered a great loss. But even so, the strength of the 2 academies could still squeeze into the ranks of the top academies. If they could really shake hands and make peace in the future, with the full support of Zhuang Yifan, the president of the alliance, it would not be difficult to restore their former glory. At that time, Leidong Academy and Cauldron City Academy would have to stand aside. I have no problem on my side. Lu Ziyu nodded without hesitation. Although many of the higher-ups of Chenjiao Academy were still brooding over what happened back then, those who could reach this step were all people who knew how to adapt to circumstances. In the face of real benefits, no one would hold on to this little grudge, or else they would be the sinners of Chenjiao Academy. Then Chancellor Li, what do you think? Lin Yi turned to look at Li Run. Li Run looked at Lin Yi in a difficult position, then looked at Lu Ziyu. He smiled bitterly and said, the 2 academies working together will benefit both sides, so of course I'm 100% in favor of it. However, this matter is of great importance, and I'm afraid it's not something a mere chancellor like me can decide on. At the very least, I have to ask for Headmaster Ling's permission. I hope that Master Lin and Headmaster Lu can forgive me. Logically speaking, This matter should be done as Chancellor Li suggested, and let Dean Ling personally make the decision. However, this opportunity cannot be missed. If we miss it, it will not be easy to get Zhuang Yifan to help us in the future. Lin Yi muttered to himself for a moment, then decided, how about this? I will overstep my authority and make the decision for the Morning Star Academy. Dean Ling is a righteous person. I believe he will not object. Thank you, Master Lin. Li Run immediately agreed. As a mere chancellor, he did not have the right to decide on such an important matter that concerned the future of the academy. But Lin Yi was different. With his relationship with the Morning Star Academy's 3 magnates, as well as his various powerful backgrounds, even if Ling Yuanqing knew, he would not blame him. Instead, he would only be grateful. In reality, forget about Lin Yi. Even if it was his cheap disciple Qing Danzi, who made the decision on the spot, Ling Yuanqing would not blame him. After all, he was the pillar of the academy. Moreover, this matter did not bring any harm to the Morning Star Academy, so only a fool would object. Since that's the case, then I'll go and refine the pills first. We can all go together during the banquet. Lin Yi said to the crowd, then stood up and carried the box of precious elixirs that Zhuang Yifan had brought and left, leaving the crowd to continue drinking tea and chatting. The 2 academies shaking hands and making peace was a huge matter that involved many aspects. Lu Ziyu and Li Run had to first discuss and come up with a draft. As for Hui Yudi, Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao, they had long since slipped away to have a private conversation. There were always endless topics between women, especially when they had Lin Yi in common. Arriving at the special alchemy room on the treasured ship, Lin Yi only adjusted his state of mind slightly, then impatiently started trying. This was his first time refining a mystic-grade elixir, so he was somewhat perturbed and nervous. However, after taking out the godly pesticide cauldron and installing the alchemy equipment sent by Han Jingjing, Lin Yi's state of mind immediately calmed down. Being as calm as an ancient well was the minimum requirement for alchemy. If his state of mind was not calm, then there was no need to even open the furnace, since the chances of success were 0. This alchemy was different from the past. In the past, Lin Yi only needed to follow the instructions on the tablet and continuously input the corresponding strength of qi. However, this time, there was an additional step, and that was to control the attribute of qi. The solid earth pill only required metal, wood and earth attribute qi. If Lin Yi were to bring in 8 attributes at once, then even if he was lucky enough to succeed, the final product would not be the authentic solid earth pill. This step itself was not difficult. For those real mystic-grade alchemists, the difficulty of this step was how to perfectly simulate the other attributes of qi. However, Lin Yi did not have this problem at all. He only needed to control the 3 attributes of qi, and everything else was a fool's operation. Everything seemed to be going very smoothly. Lin Yi did not feel the difficulty of refining a mystic-grade elixir at all. From beginning to end, he seemed to be able to do it with ease. But in the end, when he opened the godly pesticide cauldron, there was only a pile of residue inside. Failed. This result was not unexpected. Lin Yi had been mentally prepared for this, so he only used 1 set of materials this time. But the problem was that with his alchemy experience, he did not know where he failed at all. Fortunately, there was an alchemy artifact peripheral. After experiencing the first failure, the computer began to automatically correct the alchemy curve just now. At first glance, the new alchemy curve seemed to be the same as the original, but if you looked closely, you would find that many details have been fine-tuned. For these fine-tuning made by the computer, Lin Yi had a completely incomprehensible expression. After all, he was not a serious mystic-grade alchemist who rushed up step by step. He could not understand why these fine-tuning appeared, let alone what effect such fine-tuning would have. However, Lin Yi did not need to fully understand it. He only needed to input qi according to the computer's instructions. As long as there was no deviation in this point, everything else was the business of the godly pesticide cauldron. He could not intervene at all. In theory, the godly pesticide cauldron with the peripherals was actually an omnipotent alchemy artifact, because even if it failed the first time, it could be continuously optimized by adjusting the alchemy curve. If the second time failed, there would be a third time. And if the third time failed, there would be a fourth time, until the alchemy finally succeeded. Chapter 49-42. Zhuang Yifan was the president of the Golden Rank Academy Alliance, and a great master in the late stage of the Earth-opening realm. Even so, he only managed to gather 30% of the materials. The godly armament cauldron could be used 10,000 times, but the materials were only enough for 3 tries. This was the reality. If he couldn't succeed after 3 tries, it would be equivalent to declaring the alchemy a failure. Because Zhuang Yifan provided a little more materials, Lin Yi had a little more than 2 sets left. He didn't dare to put all of them in at once. Even if the alchemy curve had been adjusted, no one knew if it would succeed before the second result came out. If he needed to make further adjustments, and he was stupid enough to throw in all the materials at once, it would be a joke. Lin Yi thought about it, and put in half of the materials in his hand. Then, he struck while the iron was hot, and began the second attempt. The success or failure didn't have much to do with him. It all depended on the godly armament cauldron. This time, the alchemy process was obviously more complicated than the first time. There were a few strange sounds from time to time. Every time a sound was made, Lin Yi's heart sank a little. This was the rhythm of failure. However, when he finally opened the godly armament cauldron, he was stunned. There were 2 yellow pills lying inside. Without a doubt, they were the earth solidifying pills. It turned out that the strange sounds weren't a sign of failure. It was the legendary saying that the road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. Han Jingjing's alchemy artifact was really amazing. It could even produce a mystic class first-level pill. It was even able to overproduce as usual. How could those high and mighty mystic class alchemists endure this? Lin Yi couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief as he held the 2 solid earth pills in his hand. He'd be able to explain things to Zhuang Yifan now, and there wouldn't be any more unforeseen accidents. If he'd really failed, Zhuang Yifan might have gotten angry out of humiliation and done something unfavorable to him, and that'd be troublesome. While Lin Yi was refining, Bao Zuoyang and Su Kexing sneaked off the treasure ship while no one was paying attention. "Young Master Bao, are you sure you can borrow a flying spirit beast here?" Su Kexing asked as he followed behind Bao Zuoyang. "Of course, it's just a flying spirit beast. How could I not be able to borrow it?" Bao Zuoyang rolled his eyes at him. "But this is the Thunderous Plain Island. It is desolate and uninhabited, and there are no academies or main cities. Where are we going to rent a flying spirit beast?" Su Kexing asked in astonishment. "Who said anything about renting it? Why don't you just ask to borrow it from them? Don't forget that there's a branch of the Alliance here, and my father happens to know one of the higher-ups of the Alliance stationed here. As long as I ask, borrowing a flying spirit beast is a small matter," Bao Zuoyang said proudly. "So that's how it is. As long as we can borrow a flying spirit beast, our plan will be half successful." Su Kexing's eyes lit up as he nodded. "All right, you didn't dare to say it on the boat, because you were afraid that the walls might have ears. Now, you don't have to keep me guessing anymore. Tell me what the plan is." Bao Zuoyang couldn't wait to ask. "Young Master Bao, with our current strength, what do you think our chances of winning against Lin Fan are?" Su Kexing asked instead of answering. Bao Zuoyang's expression turned ugly as he said bitterly. "Lin Fan has already made a name for himself. He can challenge mountain opening stage giants by himself. Now even Zhuang Yifan is on his side. The possibility of us killing him with just the 2 of us is not high. It's not just not high. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't even have the chance." Su Kexing mercilessly shattered Bao Zuoyang's last bit of fantasy and said with certainty, "Young Master Bao, don't think that I'm trying to boost the morale of others and diminish our own. To be honest, we are no longer on the same level as Lin Fan. Even your father might not be able to do anything to Lin Fan. He might even be the one to blame." Even Zhuang Yifan, the head of the alliance, was on Lin Yi's side. Bao Zuoyang's father was just an ordinary city lord. He was nothing compared to Zhuang Yifan. How could he win against Lin Yi? Bao Zuoyang didn't say anything. Even if Su Kexing didn't say it, he would have guessed it himself. He didn't want to accept it, but he had to bow his head in the face of this cruel reality. If he did something stupid, not only would he not be able to defeat Lin Yi, but he'd also get himself into trouble. Then what do you think we should do? Just give up like this? Bao Zuoyang said with a frown. He was still lusting after Wang Xinyan, and the feeling of being obsessed with her wasn't something any other girl could compare to. If he were to let her go now, he'd probably never be able to accept it. Plus, he'd lost to Lin Yi a few times before. It was a great humiliation to him. How could he just let it go like this? In fact, putting aside personal preferences and considering the pros and cons, stopping here is actually the best choice. Su Kexing sighed. He glanced at Bao Zuoyang's gloomy expression and said, "But I think young Master Bao will definitely not agree to it. In fact, even I don't want to admit defeat so easily. Otherwise, I wouldn't have suggested sneaking out." "Alright, that's enough bullshit. Let's get down to business. You asked me to sneak out and borrow a flying spirit beast. What are you planning?" Bao Zuoyang asked. The best choice Su Kexing had mentioned wasn't even within his scope of consideration. "My plan is simple. Let's go to Ding City now," Su Kexing said with a smile. "Ding City? Why are we going there?" Bao Zuoyang paused, then reacted. "You're not going to complain to the ghost of death, are you?" "That's right. I'm going to complain to him." Su Kexing nodded. The ghost of death they were talking about was Chang Lading's father, Zhang Zili's man. He was the mayor of Ding City, Chang Minggui. The ghost of death was a nickname that was very appropriate for this big boss of Ding City. Not only did it have the same sound as his name, but he was also a vengeful person who would pay with his life for the slightest offense. Countless people had died at his hands over small matters, and that was why he was called the Ghost of Death. Chapter 49-43. Bao Zuoyang's concern was reasonable. After all, Chang Minggui would not give up no matter what. Why should the two of them get involved in this mess? It was better to hide far away and watch the tigers fight. After all, they could not afford to offend Lin Yi, let alone Chang Minggui. If they were to be targeted by either of them, both of them would be in deep trouble. If they behaved themselves and stayed in a good spot to watch the show, they might be able to witness a satisfying scene. "Young Master Bao, you're wrong. If we don't do anything, there's a high chance that we won't be able to see any good show." Su Kexing shook his head. "How is that possible? The ghost for death won't let Lin Yi go." Bao Zuoyang suddenly jumped up. "Indeed, he won't let Lin Yi go. But if he doesn't rush over immediately, Lin Yi will probably escape." Su Kexing smiled helplessly. Just as he said before, the most rational choice right now was to give up. Otherwise, no matter what they did, they would more or less have to bear some risk. But then again, if the two of them did nothing, it would be unrealistic for them to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight like Bao Zuoyang expected. Run away. Bao Zuoyang was stunned. Only then did he realize that from Lin Yi's point of view, the best choice at the moment was to escape before Chang Minggui could react. As long as he escaped back to the North Island, Chang Minggui would not be able to do anything to him. After all, it was impossible for Chang Minggui to chase him all the way to the North Island. Not to mention whether he would go or not. Even if he did, it would be useless. The North Island was not a pushover. With a super big boss like Shanghai Tianhua in charge, would he dare to come looking for trouble? He would be looking for a beating. That's right. Lin Yi isn't a fool. Since he dared to attack Zhang Zili and Chang Lading, he must have calculated the ghost for death's revenge. That's why he only has two choices left. He can either find strong external help to block the attack, or he can escape. Su Kexing analyzed. Now that you've put it that way, he really only has one option left, which is to run away. The life expiator ghost isn't someone to be trifled with. That Lin fellow will only die if he encounters him. Zhuang Yifan and the three Morning Star powerhouses might be able to deal with the life expiator ghost. But do they have such a close relationship with that Lin fellow? Usually, they look harmonious. But once they encounter such a life-threatening situation, they will definitely stand by and watch. So, the one with the surname Lin can only run away. Bao Zuoyang immediately came to a realization after being reminded like this. Exactly. I dare say that if the Ghost for Death wants to seek revenge on Lin Yi, his only chance is to do so on Thunderous Plains Island. Otherwise, once Lin Yi returns to the Morning Star Academy, even if the three Morning Star powerhouses aren't willing to fight to the death with the Ghost for his sake, they'll still be able to delay him and let him escape. Su Kexing's face was full of foresight. Even if that's the case, there's no need for us to specially go to Tripod City to complain, right? With such a huge incident happening, the Ghost for Death will definitely rush over immediately to denounce us. He can't possibly be patient and slowly negotiate through the official channels, right? Bao Zuoyang said disapprovingly. No, it's the exact opposite. We have to go. And we have to go immediately. Su Kexing shook his head and said with certainty. Why? Bao Zuoyang was stunned. Hee, if we don't go, who's going to report to the Ghost for Death? Right now, the people on the Tripod City Academy's ship who are in charge are all dead or alive. Zhang Zili, Chang Lading, and the two libationers are all lying on the ground. Right now, their ship is definitely in a mess. At this time, there's no way anyone would dare to step forward and report to the Ghost for Death. Whoever steps forward will be unlucky. Su Kexing laughed coldly and curled his lips. I reckon that by the time the Ghost for Death receives the last news, Lin Yi will have already escaped back to the northern island. What's the use then? Not bad, not bad. You're really smart, kid. If not for your reminder, I wouldn't have thought of all this. Bao Zuoyang's eyes lit up as he praised. You flatter me, young Master Bao. I was just thinking a little too much. Although Su Kexing spoke modestly, his expression showed that he was enjoying it. If that's the case, then we can't delay any longer. We have to borrow a flying spirit beast to get to the Tripod City, although the Tripod City isn't too far from here. If we want to see the Ghost for Death, we'll have to put in some effort. We can't delay for too long. If we wait for Lin Yi to escape back to the Morning Star Academy, then all our efforts will be in vain. Bao Zuoyang said impatiently. Yes, there's no time to lose. Let's get there as soon as possible. Su Kexing nodded repeatedly. The two of them found the Alliance Division, and Bao Zuoyang showed up, successfully borrowing a flying spirit beast. They immediately set off for Cauldron City. From the beginning to the end, the people of Morning Star Academy didn't notice the two of them sneaking away. They were all talking about Lin Yi, and no one had the time to pay attention to them. When the sky darkened, Lin Yi appeared in front of everyone in a relaxed manner. He smiled and said, Let's go eat. Wang Xinyan and the others looked at each other and smiled. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, they knew that they had succeeded. They didn't ask any more questions and crowded around him as they walked towards the Alliance branch. Li Run brought a group of Morning Star Academy disciples and followed behind them. As for Lu Ziyu, she went back to call the Morning Pride Academy disciples. Because of Hui Yudi, she was leading the team as the vice dean. At this time, the Alliance had already notified that the celebration banquet would be held in advance at the Thunder Plain Island Alliance branch. All Academy disciples could attend the banquet, although this was against the rules. And not only were the Academy disciples who were still training unable to attend, even the Academy disciples who had left early had no chance of attending the banquet. However, Zhuang Yifan was the chairman of the Alliance. With his position and strength, he could do whatever he wanted. He didn't need to discuss it with anyone. If you couldn't attend, you could only blame your own bad luck. Would you dare to complain to Zhuang Yifan? Moreover, although the banquet was held in a hurry, most of the academies were present, so it wasn't too outrageous. The Alliance branch wasn't far from the pier. It was a rather grand and magnificent building complex. Although it was far from luxurious, it looked extremely sturdy from the outside. It was enough to deal with all kinds of natural and man-made disasters. This didn't feel like an Alliance branch, but more like a heavily guarded secret base. Chapter 49-44. But what surprised Lin Yi and the others was that the other academies that had arrived earlier did not enter. Instead, they were all stuck outside the door, and were all discussing among themselves. Could it be that something happened? Lin Yi was slightly taken aback, but before he could ask, the crowd in front of him suddenly opened up a path. Then, Zhuang Yifan personally welcomed him with a smile. Master Lin is indeed a man of his word. Come, come, come. Please come in. The people from the other academies were in an uproar. Although most of them had heard about what had happened this morning, they had only heard about it, and had never seen the person himself. This was the first time they had seen Lin Yi, the ruthless person who had challenged Zhang Ziji. What surprised them even more was that Zhuang Yifan, as the president of the alliance, not only did not punish Lin Yi, he even put down his status and personally came out to welcome him. For this reason, he did not hesitate to block the entrance of so many academies. This was simply the treatment of a superior VIP. Just who was this Lin Yi? Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry. These people were blocked outside because of him. Zhuang Yifan had really put in a lot of effort to get him to help with alchemy. Thank you for coming out to greet me personally, Chairman Zhuang. I'm really flattered, Lin Yi said with a smile. You are too kind. This is the most basic etiquette for a mystic class alchemist. Not to mention in the yellow class C, even in the mystic class C would be the same. Master Lin need not be modest. Zhuang Yifan smiled as he invited Lin Yi into the already prepared banquet hall. Only after they entered the hall could the other academies finally follow them in. The huge banquet hall was filled with hundreds of tables. Zhuang Yifan personally led Lin Yi to sit at the main table in the middle. Only then did the others find their own seats. This seat was not something that could be casually occupied, as there were clear rules regarding which tables belonged to which academies. Elite academies like the Leidong Academy were arranged to sit at the main table, and their every move was closely watched. As for the smaller academies, they were directly lined up behind the main entrance, and not even a single person could be seen, let alone any sense of existence. However, even a top academy like the Leidong Academy could only get close to the main table. It was impossible for them to occupy a seat at the main table. There were only 8 seats at the main table, and they had always been reserved for Zhuang Yifan and the other higher-ups of the Academy Alliance. Other than that, only a small number of Academy representatives were allowed to share a table with them. In the past, if the headmaster of the Leidong Academy had personally come, he would have been given a seat. However, this time, it was only the leader of the libation team. How could he be qualified to share a table with Zhuang Yifan? Hundreds of people around the main table were watching every move. Lin Yi was undoubtedly the focus of their discussion. Their faces were filled with envy and jealousy. It was a great honor to be able to sit next to Zhuang Yifan in the golden class waters. Even the headmasters of most academies didn't have the right to do so, let alone an unknown young man like Lin Yi. But compared to this, the other people who took their seats at the main table made everyone's jaws drop. Wang Xingyan, Huang Xiaotao, Huayudi Lu Ziyuli Run. Who the hell were these people? The precious seats that belonged to the upper echelons of the alliance were all taken up by people who had nothing to do with them. This wasn't some celebration party for the path of a tycoon. It was a family banquet. Was Zhuang Yifan an idiot? With this seating arrangement, the other academies wouldn't even be able to mingle in the foreseeable future. Lin Yi would be the one calling the shots in the future, and the other academies would have no choice but to stand on the sidelines. Everyone was discussing this in private, but they didn't dare show the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. Even Wang Dianxing from the Leidong Academy, who was sitting not far away, only dared to look askance at Lin Yi, not daring to voice his anger. Thanks to Lin Yi, he'd already been beaten senseless by Lin Yi before he could break through to the profound Ascension realm, resulting in his failure. The once insufferably arrogant leader of the 4 lords of the nascent soul realm was now nothing more than trash. He didn't have the slightest bit of the arrogant aura of a proud son of the heavens. This former genius was completely ruined. Lin Yi didn't even look at this kind of defeated opponent, but the whispers of the surrounding people made him a little uncomfortable. Zhuang Yifan's arrangement was indeed a little too capricious. In order to make space for people like him, the other higher-ups of the alliance were forcefully thrown to another table with just one sentence. This president of the alliance was so arbitrary that people didn't know what to say. However, this was also a manifestation of his powerful strength. Even if he sat in the position of president of the alliance, in the end, the power in his hands still depended on his strength to fight for it. If someone with ordinary strength became the president, even if he didn't become a mere figurehead, it would still be difficult to intimidate so many Golden Stage academies. As for Zhuang Yifan, with his terrifying strength of the late stage of Earth opening, there was no one here who could compete with him. The power of the president of the alliance was naturally tyrannical to the extreme in his hands. Basically, he could do whatever he wanted, and no one dared to say anything. They could only obediently follow his orders. Master Lin, I'll leave the matter of alchemy to you this time. Cheers, cheers. Zhuang Yifan didn't pay any attention to the surprised looks of the people around him. The president of the alliance was putting himself in such a low position, without any reservation at all. This guy was really unique. President Zhuang, you're too polite. Lin followed suit and drained his drink. Master Lin, I know you'll definitely need to rest well during this period. So I've specially prepared a side courtyard here in the branch. The environment is absolutely unique, and I believe you'll be satisfied. What do you think, Master Lin? Zhuang Yifan suggested in a very sincere tone. Oh, upon hearing this, Lin looked at him playfully. Zhuang Yifan seemed to be doing this painstakingly, and his attitude was also impeccably sincere. However, his intentions were not as simple as it seemed. It was obvious that he was afraid that Lin would slip away, so he wanted to use this method to put him under house arrest in the alliance branch. Zhuang Yifan smiled and looked at Lin. He was the president of the alliance, a mighty late-stage Earth-opening expert, and he was putting himself in such a low position in front of a junior like Lin. His goal was, of course, for the Earth consolidation pill. For this, it was necessary to take some precautions. After all, they had never met before. Who knew if this young man with such a powerful background could be relied on? Chapter 49-45. Really? Are you sure you don't want to reconsider, Master Lin? Zhuang Yifan's face darkened. He believed that Lin understood what he was getting at, and yet Lin still rejected him on the spot. His motives were suspicious. Could it be that the kid was guilty? There's no need to reconsider. There's no need for it. Lin saw the anger in Zhuang Yifan's eyes and sighed inwardly. There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Zhuang Yifan was doing everything he could to benefit Lin, all for the sake of the solid earth pill. Even though he said that it was fine even if he failed. Who knew if he would fly into a rage out of humiliation if he really failed? No one could guarantee that, other than himself. Lin was still too weak. Lin sighed to himself. If he was strong enough, he wouldn't need to worry about these people. He could come and go as he pleased, and no one would dare stop him. He was lucky this time that he managed to successfully concoct the solid earth pill with the help of the godly armament cauldron. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to leave Thunderous Plains Island. Even if Zhuang Yifan didn't kill him, he'd at least put him under house arrest. Escaping would be as difficult as reaching the heavens. Looks like Master Lin has made up his mind. Zhuang Yifan put down his glass with an unreadable expression. From the looks of it, his next words were very likely to be refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. The atmosphere at the main table suddenly became tense. Even the people at the other tables looked over, all of them staring at Lin. Hee, don't think too much about it, Chief Zhuang. Take a look at this first. Lin smiled calmly. A small box had appeared in his hand, and he handed it to Zhuang Yifan. This is. Zhuang Yifan took the box and opened it. He froze, unable to react for a long time. The others couldn't help but whisper among themselves when they saw Zhuang Yifan's expression. Wang Xinyan and the others, who knew the inside story, smiled but didn't say anything. Lin had never disappointed them before. Things that were as difficult as climbing up to the heavens for others were easy for him, especially when it came to refining pills. He'd always been pleasantly surprised, and this time was no exception. Seeing Zhuang Yifan's shocked expression, Lu Ziyu and Li Run, who were sitting at the same table, were speechless as well. With Zhuang Yifan's level, Putting down his pride and asking someone to concoct a pill meant that it had to be a mystic class pill. Lin Yi could even concoct a mystic class pill, and all in less than a day's time. After a while, Zhuang Yifan slowly put the box away and bowed to Lin Yi in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Master Lin, you truly are a genius. I am impressed. The crowd went into an uproar. Who was Zhuang Yifan? Ever since he took over the leadership of the Golden Step Academy Alliance, he had purged the entire academy within a short month. His methods were so domineering that no one could compare to him. In front of him, all his subordinates could only listen to him. They didn't even have the guts to make a sound. Someone as strong as him had never lowered his head, even in front of those old monsters who lived in seclusion in the Golden Class C area, let alone within the Golden Class School Alliance. Now he was bowing to a junior in public for the first time. Did this guy drink too much? Hehe, you flatter me, Chief Zhuang. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Facing a big shot like Zhuang Yifan in front of everyone, he was still able to keep his composure. Everyone's jaws dropped. So this guy was a master, hiding his true self. He had the demeanor of a master. No. I'm not flattering you at all. On the contrary, Master Lin is too humble. Zhuang Yifan shook his head. The earth-solid pill in the box had completely dispelled all of his doubts. In less than a day, Lin Yi was able to refine a mystic level 1 earth-solid pill. Judging from the quality, it was definitely top-notch. With such amazing alchemy skills, he wanted to kneel down and lick Lin Yi's shoes. Although there were very few profound rank first-level alchemists, he had seen a few of them when he was in the profound rank C region. However, even if they had a transcendent status and were treated as honored guests by many big shots, it was impossible for them to refine pills so easily. Otherwise, profound rank pills would have been everywhere long ago, and it would not be as priceless as it was now. In fact, in his expectations, Lin Yi being able to complete it within a month was already a good result. He didn't even think that Lin Yi would be able to help him without rest, let alone complete it in less than a day. Even with his experience and knowledge, he couldn't help but sigh. This guy was too goddamn heaven-defying. In terms of personal strength, a mystic ascension early phase could beat a mountain opening early phase. And in terms of alchemy skills, he could refine a mystic level 1 earth solid pill in less than a day. If Zhuang Yifan still had some doubts about Lin Yi's identity before, then he was absolutely convinced now. If it weren't for Shanghai Tianhua and Zhang Liju working together to raise such a genius, Zhuang Yifan would have twisted his head off and kicked it like a ball. Headmaster Zhuang, you wouldn't want me to stay here for a while, would you? Lin Yi smiled and looked at him playfully. Ugh. Zhuang Yifan's face reddened as he smiled and waved his hand. I'm just being petty. I hope Master Lin can forgive me. I'll apologize to you here. As for that courtyard, I'll leave it for Master Lin. Master Lin can move in whenever he wants. It's definitely the best treatment in the alliance. Of course, it's fine if Master Lin wants to leave anytime. I'm just trying to be a good host. I won't force Master Lin. Haha, Headmaster Zhuang, you're too courteous. I may not be a student of Morning Star Academy, but I'm half a student here. I'll eat and sleep with everyone, so I won't make it special. Lin Yi smiled as he rejected. Naturally, Zhuang Yifan wouldn't put Lin Yi under house arrest or anything like that. But Lin Yi didn't want to get too close to this person. After all, it was just an alliance of benefits. Lin Yi would refine the earth-solid pill for him, and he would protect Lin Yi. That was all. Now that Zhuang Yifan had gotten his hands on the earth-solid pill, he had also witnessed Lin Yi's heaven-defying alchemy skills. Under these circumstances, he wouldn't burn the bridge after crossing it. Any mystic-class alchemist was an existence that needed to be roped in. In other words, the stronger Lin Yi's alchemy skills were, the more he would protect Lin Yi. And he would even try to get closer to Lin Yi so that he could speak to him again in the future. Chapter 49-46. There's a saying that goes, stay away from what you fear, and vice versa. When dealing with a big shot like Zhuang Yifan, if you want to maintain an equal and cooperative relationship, you must keep your distance. Otherwise, if you get too close, you'll easily become the other's subordinate. When that happens, you'll be in a passive position, and it'll be hard for you to speak. If you keep your distance, you'll still be an equal ally, and Zhuang Yifan will have to bow down to others for anything. But if you get too close, you'll become the other's underling. If the boss asks his underling for help, then why would he have to bow down to others? That's the way of the world. If that's the case, then I won't force you. Master Lin has helped me a lot this time. I'll remember this and repay you handsomely. Zhuang Yifan nodded solemnly, and then suddenly asked, Master Lin, I've seen mystic first-level alchemists before, but I've never heard of one that can refine pills in one day. I'm afraid Master Lin isn't as simple as a mystic first-level alchemist, right? Lin Yi heard this and couldn't help but laugh. Zhuang Yifan's reaction was exactly the same as Qing Danzi's. The only difference was that Zhuang Yifan's level was a mystic first-level alchemist, but he was suspected to be a mystic first-level alchemist. Now that he's making a mystic first-level alchemist, he's suspected to be a mystic second-level alchemist. Of course, this was a beautiful misunderstanding. If Lin Yi denied it on the spot, he'd be too naive. Zhuang Yifan's reaction was exactly the same as Qing Danzi's. The only difference was that he was making a mystic first-level alchemist, and now he's making a mystic first-level alchemist, and now he's making a mystic second-level alchemist. Of course, this was a beautiful misunderstanding. If Lin Yi denied it on the spot, then he'd be too naive. When dealing with people like Zhuang Yifan, the higher the level, the better. A mystic second-level alchemist's value was definitely higher than a mystic first-level alchemist's. But Lin Yi wasn't stupid enough to directly admit that he was a mystic second-level alchemist. That would be enough to scare people. But what if they offered to help him refine a mystic second-level alchemist? You flatter me. I'm still trying to break through to the second level of the mystic rank. Lin Yi smiled mysteriously. His answer would definitely cause one's imagination to run wild. Although it was the truth, those who didn't know the truth would think that he was being modest. Plus, this sentence even filled in the hole. Zhuang Yifan couldn't possibly ask someone who was trying to break through to the second level of the mystic stage to refine a second-level mystic stage pill. Right? Sure enough, Master Lin is truly extraordinary. My eyes are truly blind. Zhuang Yifan was immediately filled with respect. Just the status of a mystic level 1 alchemist was already on par with his. If he became a mystic level 2 alchemist, he wouldn't even be able to sit on the same level as him. At the very least, he would have to sit on the last seat. Not at all, not at all. I'm still one step away from the second level of the mystic rank. President Zhuang knows that at this level, there is always the possibility of an insurmountable barrier appearing at any time. It's so close, yet so far away, and you might not be able to cross it in your lifetime. There are already too many examples to mention. Lin Yi's performance was still very humble. Yes, but that's for others. For a genius like you, Master Lin, the so-called barrier is just a matter of time. Zhuang Yifan's emotions were stirred up, and he was already using honorifics. His mind immediately became active. If Lin Yi could really become a mystic level 2 alchemist, then it would be a huge temptation for him. With his current strength of the late stage of the earth-opening realm, if it wasn't for the accident that happened when he tried to break through to the peak of the late stage of the earth-opening realm, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't need a mystic level 1 pill like the solid earth pill. Only a higher level mystic level 2 pill would be able to help him improve further. Originally, this was something that would take a long time. He, Zhuang Yifan, had to put in a lot of effort to find a mystic level 1 alchemist, let alone a mystic level 2 pill. But now Lin Yi's appearance gave him hope. Although he wasn't a ready-made mystic level 2 alchemist, Lin Yi was able to refine the solid earth pill in one day. This meant that he wasn't far from becoming a mystic level 2 pill. It could even be said that he was just around the corner. Lin Yi smiled noncommittally and turned to say, President Zhuang, speaking of which, I still have something that I need your help with. Oh, Master Lin, just tell me. I will do as you say. When Zhuang Yifan heard this, not only did he not refuse, but his eyes lit up. He was worried that the favor he sold to Lin Yi was far from enough. After all, The price to ask for a future mystic level 2 alchemist was very high. If the favor wasn't deep enough, what would happen if Lin Yi rejected him? Alright, President Zhuang is the most suitable person for this matter. I won't hold back. Lin Yi nodded and pointed at Lu Ziyu and Li Run. I'm sure President Zhuang is aware of the grudge between the Morning Star Academy and the Morning Pride Academy. I have a good relationship with both academies, so it's not easy for me to be stuck in the middle. That's why I wanted to ask President Zhuang to speak to them and let them forget about the past and reconcile. Would President Zhuang be able to do so? That's a good thing. I, Zhuang, am most willing to be the peacemaker between the two sides. I've heard about what happened between the two academies. It's been so many years. If it were up to me, they should have shaken hands a long time ago. Master Lin, you are indeed a sensible person. Zhuang Yifan readily agreed, and enthusiastically said, Then how about this? When the path of the tyrant is over, I will personally pay a visit to both academies. I believe that no one would refuse to give me face. President Zhuang, you must be joking. It would be a great honor for our academy if you were to come personally. With you speaking, no one in the academy would disobey. Lu Ziyu and Li Run were instantly overwhelmed by the favor. They had thought that Zhuang Yifan would at most get someone to pass on the message, but they did not expect him to agree to come personally. Lin Yi's reputation was indeed enormous. Hehe, then I'll have to trouble President Zhuang. Lin Yi, however, smiled faintly, appearing very calm about this matter. Otherwise, if he were as overwhelmed by the favor as Lu Ziyu and Li Run were, then the demeanor of an expert from before would have been for nothing. What are you saying? There's no need to trouble yourself over such a small matter. Master Lin, you're treating me like an outsider. Come, let's drink. Zhuang Yifan intentionally wanted to use this opportunity to get closer to Lin Yi. He kept on praising Lin Yi and repeatedly toasted him. Under his lead, the atmosphere gradually became more lively, and it really did have the atmosphere of a celebratory feast. While everyone was toasting each other, Bao Zuoyang and Su Kesheng, who had snuck out with the help of flying spirit beasts, had now appeared in Cauldron City. Moreover, they had appeared in the guest hall of the town lord's office as they had wished. However, at this moment, both of them were in a sorry state and had injuries on their bodies. Who asked them to barge into the town lord's office? They were lucky not to have been beaten to death by the guards of the town lord's office. Chapter 49-47. Young Master Bao, didn't you agree with me when I proposed this plan? Su Kesheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. If it wasn't like this, how would we have the opportunity to meet the mayor so quickly? I reckon that even if we shout outside that his wife and son have been killed, it'll be useless. Even if we successfully cause a commotion, the housekeeper will definitely suppress it immediately. By the time we see him, I reckon that it'll be too late. Who can guarantee that the surnamed Lin won't escape overnight? This, Bao Zuoyang was stunned speechless. He was the son of the city lord, so he was very clear about the rules of the city lord's mansion and the town lord's mansion. As the saying goes, one should look at the master before beating the dog. If they didn't beat the most important dog, it would be difficult for them to see the ghost that would pay for its life in a short time. Before the two finished whispering to each other, a gust of wind suddenly blew in from outside the door. The wind was so strong that the two early-stage profound ascendant experts almost lost their footing. However, what was strange was that the surrounding tables and chairs did not move at all, giving people the feeling that there was an invisible wall that separated the reception hall into two different worlds. Bao Zuoyang and Su Kesheng were shocked at the same time. Before they could make any defensive movements, two hands suddenly grabbed their necks at the same time. A majestic figure then appeared in the gale. It was a middle-aged man with an extremely ugly face and an extremely cruel appearance, whose wife and son were killed. The middle-aged man looked at the two coldly. The two were instantly terrified. With their necks grabbed, they could not speak. They could only struggle in vain. But the two hands did not move at all. The middle-aged man remained unmoved until the two of them turned deathly pale and were about to stop breathing. Only then did he finally throw them to the ground. He looked down at them like a ferocious beast looking for food, scaring Bao Zuoyang and Su Kexing. You are the ghost for paying. Bao Zuoyang looked at the middle-aged man in shock and fear. Then with a bang his whole body suddenly flew out. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Speak, if you don't understand, you will be worse than him. The middle-aged man stared coldly at Su Kexing. Yes, Mayor Chong. Su Kexing suppressed the fear in his heart and took a deep breath. We are both disciples of the Morning Star Academy. He is Bao Zuoyang and I am Su Kexing. Both of us just came from Thunderous Plain Island. You guys participated in the Path of the Giants? Chong Mingwei glanced at him. His son Chong Lading was participating in this trial. If it was in the past, he wouldn't have cared about such irrelevant matters. That's right. Both of us have just come out from the Path of Giants, because something big happened. That's why I thought of a way to rush over in time to inform you, Su Kexing said cautiously. Something big? Chong Mingwei laughed. Are you trying to say that my wife and son were killed? Such a person doesn't exist in the Yellow Class C region, especially in the Alliance's territory. Kid, you should know the consequences of spouting such nonsense in front of me, right? Yes, of course I know. Su Kexing nodded repeatedly and explained. This one also knows that this matter is very outrageous. But it really happened in front of the disciples of the various academies. Both Grandmaster Zhang and young Master Chong were injured by a person called Lin Yi. It's hard to say whether he's dead or alive. What did you say? Chong Mingwei glared at Su Kexing, and a huge pressure pressed down on him, making it hard for him to breathe. Su Kexing was almost pressed to the ground. He said doubtfully, You mean that Zhuang Yifan touched my wife and son? Although Chong Mingwei was very confident, he still had to take a step back in front of Zhuang Yifan. Not only was this alliance president unfathomably powerful, but his methods were also extremely domineering. In the entire school alliance, he was the only one who could speak. Thunder Plain Island was where the alliance's branch was located. If not for Zhuang Yifan's approval, how would that bullshit Lin Yi dare to touch his wife and son? That's not it. Mayor Chong, you've misunderstood. Lin Yi is a foreign disciple from the North Island, not a member of the alliance. He's also not a subordinate of President Zhuang. Su Kexing waved his hands. A disciple from the North Island? When did the North Island have a mountain opening stage disciple? Chong Mingwei looked at Su Kexing suspiciously. He didn't believe that anyone would be stupid enough to lie to him. After all, he would have to pay with his life. But to say that a disciple from the North Island had the strength of the mountain opening period was too much of an exaggeration. No, Lin Yi is not a mountain opening stage magnate. He just finished the Path of the Magnate trial, and now his strength is only in the early stage of mysterious ascension. Su Kexing shook his head. Nonsense. Chong Mingwei was about to explode, and the huge hall was once again filled with strong wind. Mayor Chong, please wait. Everything I've said is the truth. Lin Yi did defeat Master Zhang with the strength of the early stage of mysterious ascension. Many people saw this, and you'll know if you ask. Su Kexing said calmly. Chong Mingwei was silent for a long time, and finally said slowly, If that's the case, then why didn't I receive the news? And why did I need a disciple from the Morning Star Academy to inform me? Hearing this, Su Kexing let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this big boss of Tripod City wasn't as simple and violent as he looked. At least he was obedient. That's because the two libationers from Cauldron City were killed by Lin Yi as well. So there's no one there to report to you. Su Kexing said respectfully. As soon as he said this, a terrifying murderous aura suddenly filled the hall. After a long time, Chong Mingwei's roar that sounded like it came from hell was heard. Lin Yi, right? I'll go kill him. Su Kexing wanted to say something, but when he looked up, there was no one in front of him. Chong Mingwei was long gone. On Thunderous Plain Island, everyone was still immersed in the lively atmosphere of the celebration party. Suddenly, there was a strong wind outside, and a huge ghost-eyed golden eagle appeared in the wind. Following it was the mayor of Tripod City, Chong Mingwei. Mayor Chong, please wait. A group of mountain opening stage experts from the Alliance's guard team instantly appeared in front of Chong Mingwei, blocking his way. This is an important place for the Alliance. Without President Zhuang's permission, no one is allowed to trespass. Is that so? Then why don't you kill me? Chang Mingwei didn't even look at them, and directly barged into the banquet hall. His anger and murderous intent were almost tangible. He couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on people, and only wanted to kill. Chapter 49-48. Commander Chang, don't make things difficult for us. The guard captain blocked in front of him and shouted coldly. However, Chang Mingwei didn't even bother with him. After a gust of wind, he directly passed by him and walked into the banquet hall's entrance. What do we do? The group of mountain opening stage guards looked at the guard captain at the same time. Even if Chang Mingwei's strength was very strong, they had so many mountain opening stage experts, and they were not to be trifled with. If they really fought, Chang Mingwei was definitely not a match for them. Otherwise, wouldn't the Academy Alliance spend a huge sum of money to raise them be eating rice for free? The guard captain raised his hand to stop them. Chang Mingwei didn't follow the rules and barged into the Alliance's territory. He indeed had a reason to detain him, but this person was too important. The guard captain didn't want to provoke such a person. Moreover, Zhuang Yifan was in the banquet hall. Even if Chang Mingwei barged in, what could he do? Who is Linny? Get the hell out here. Chang Mingwei released his killing intent the moment he stepped into the banquet hall and yelled out. In an instant, the originally lively atmosphere of the banquet came to an abrupt end. Everyone looked at the ugly man who had suddenly barged in with strange expressions. Some recognized him, some didn't. They were all whispering to each other. Linny was slightly taken aback. Although he didn't recognize Chang Mingwei, he had already guessed his identity. After all, from the moment he defeated Chang Lading and Zhang Zili, this was almost certain to happen. He just didn't expect him to come so quickly. You're Linny? The Linny who beat my wife and injured my son? Chang Mingwei followed the gazes of the crowd and found the person in question. He strode towards Lin Yi's direction. That's right, that's me. Lin Yi calmly stood up. Facing the menacing Chang Mingwei, he didn't move at all. Instead, he calmly smiled and said, "What's your name?" "Those who are about to die don't need to know my name." Chang Mingwei coldly laughed. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew around him, carrying an extremely cold and dangerous aura towards Lin Yi. This was the late stage of the mountain opening stage. Lin Yi's eyelids twitched. He had already thought that since this person had a wife like Zhang Zili, his strength definitely wouldn't be low. But the late stage of the mountain opening stage still surpassed his imagination. This was not something he could fight against. Putting everything else aside, just this seemingly ordinary, but incomparably dangerous gust of wind was already very extraordinary. Lin Yi knew that he wouldn't be able to take it if he didn't use a big move. In fact, even if he used a super killer move like lightning burial, it was hard to say if he would even stand a chance. Lin Yi had no confidence at all. But facing Chang Mingwei's sudden attack, Lin Yi was as if he didn't see it. Not only did he not move, he didn't even blink. In the eyes of others, it looked like he was scared stiff. But just as Lin Yi was about to be torn apart by the gust of wind suddenly disappeared, as if everything was just an illusion. Lin Yi couldn't help but look at Zhuang Yifan. As expected of a super expert at the late stage of the earth opening stage, his silent technique was even more shocking than Chang Mingwei's. President Zhuang, what is the meaning of this? Chang Mingwei's gaze fell on Zhuang Yifan. Even though he was trying his best to appear cruel and unruly, although he was trying his best to appear fierce, Lin Yi could clearly see an indescribable fear in his eyes. At least in the Huang Class C region, Zhuang Yifan was still able to control the situation. Hee, Commander Chang, I haven't even asked you what you mean. Zhuang Yifan was still holding his wine cup and took a sip. He didn't even look at Chang Mingwei as he said, "You trespassed into the Alliance's territory and attacked my esteemed guest, especially in front of me. That's not good, is it? So Chairman Zhuang is going to protect this Lin kid?" Chang Mingwei wasn't scared. He still stared at Lin Yi with an unfriendly expression. "What do you think?" Zhuang Yifan smiled noncommittally. Chang Mingwei choked. He was used to using his power to suppress others. But that was useless in front of Zhuang Yifan. Whether it was power, Zhuang Yifan was a level higher than him. What could he use to suppress him? He didn't think Zhuang Yifan would really protect Lin Yi. No matter how he looked at it, it wasn't worth it to offend Chang Minggui for Lin Yi. Zhuang Yifan wasn't the type to be emotional. But who would have thought this would happen? He couldn't really go against Zhuang Yifan, right in front of him. If he did, he would be the one to suffer. After all, Chang Minggui was the leader of Tripod City Town. He wasn't as violent as he appeared. Chairman Zhuang, you are the leader of the alliance. You have to be fair. Otherwise, if people start gossiping about you, it won't look good for you, right? Chang Minggui said patiently. That's right. I have to be fair. Do you think I'm not fair enough? Zhuang Yifan asked with a smile. Of course it's not enough. In your alliance's territory, my wife and son were beaten to a pulp by this brat. Especially my wife. I think it was your great President Zhuang who spent a lot of effort to invite her, right? She got into trouble here, right under your nose. Shouldn't Chairman Zhuang explain? Chang Minggui said coldly. Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, that's what Mayor Chang is referring to. That's simple. Actually, I should have stopped her. But Mayor Chang should know your wife's temper better than I do. She publicly said that she wouldn't allow me to interfere, and even said that life and death are not an option. What do you think I should do? Zhuang Yifan smiled nonchalantly. She really said that? Chang Minggui froze. He thought Zhuang Yifan was behind this. Otherwise, with Zhang Zili's early-stage strength, he wouldn't be at such a disadvantage. But now that he thought about it, Zhang Zili's bad luck was on her mountain-opening initial-stage strength. With her temper, she would definitely not put a mere profound ascending initial stage in her eyes, especially after seeing her son being beaten to such a state. It was a matter of course for her to say such words in public. Otherwise she wouldn't be Zhang Zili. Who would have thought that a dignified mountain-opening early-stage magnate would actually lose to a mere mysterious ascending early-stage magnate? The possibility of this kind of unexpected failure was so small that it was negligible. Not to mention Zhang Zili, even Chang Minggui did not believe it. Chapter 49-49. I don't believe it. Chang Minggui shook his head decisively and looked at Lin Yi maliciously. Although my wife is an elixir refiner, I really don't believe that a mere mystical early-stage kid can beat her. There's no point in saying more, unless I personally test his strength. Otherwise, who knows if you, Guild Master Zhuang, did something behind my back? With your strength, it would be a piece of cake for you to fool people. Oh, Mayor Chang is indeed a straightforward person. You dare to throw this kind of shit at me in public? Speaking of which, when did my reputation become so good? Even Town Lord Chang thinks that I am a good-natured person? Zhuang Yifan's expression was as calm as ever, but it made everyone feel an invisible pressure. Even Chang Minggui, who was in the late stage of the mountain-opening realm, changed his expression and unconsciously took half a step back. No, Leader Zhuang misunderstood. This isn't shit. My wife and son were beaten up like this. I just want a reasonable explanation. I don't want people to think I'm a fool. I don't think this is too much, right? Chang Minggui didn't want to back down at all. It's not up to Leader Chang to decide. Zhuang Yifan shook his head. That's right. This is the Alliance's territory. Of course it's up to Leader Zhuang. So what does Leader Zhuang want to say? Chang Minggui looked at Zhuang Yifan coldly. Although he wasn't as strong or powerful as Zhuang Yifan, he was still the leader of Tripod City. He was the #1 alchemist in the Golden Class C, just like how Zhuang Yifan asked Zhang Zili for help. Even the Golden Class School Alliance had to be polite to him. More than half of the School Alliance's pills were supplied by Tripod City. That was why Chang Minggui was so confident. What I say is not important. What matters is what Master Lin says. Zhuang Yifan smiled and nodded at Lin Yi. Master Lin? Leader Zhuang calls this Lin kid master? Chang Minggui froze for a moment. Someone who could make Zhuang Yifan use this kind of honorifics was definitely not an ordinary person. Even an ordinary 7th-level alchemist wouldn't be qualified. From what he remembered, Zhuang Yifan only used this kind of honorifics after his wife, Zhang Zili, became a mystic first-level alchemist. In other words, this Lin brat was also a mystic-grade first-level alchemist? How is this possible? Zhuang Yifan ignored Chang Mingwei and turned to look at Lin Yi with a smile on his face. It was as if Lin Yi was in charge of everything, and he would do anything he wanted. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that he just found out that Lin Yi had a chance to become a mystic level 2 alchemist, even if Zhuang Yifan wanted to protect Lin Yi, he wouldn't be so disrespectful to Chang Mingwei. After all, Chang Mingwei was the master of an alchemy holy land, and he had a mystic level 1 alchemist as his wife. It wasn't worth it for Zhuang Yifan to offend him, just for a mystic level 1 alchemist. But if it was a mystic rank 2nd level alchemist, it would be a completely different story. Even if Lin Yi was only a pseudo-mystic rank 2nd level alchemist, that was enough for Zhuang Yifan to place all his bets on him without hesitation. As for Chang Mingwei and Zhang Zili, they weren't worth much to him. If he wanted to deal with them, he'd deal with them. If he didn't want to deal with them, he'd kick them aside. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Lin Yi. No one knew how this young man, who was treated as an honored guest by Zhuang Yifan, would respond. Zhuang Yifan and Chang Mingwei were both big shots in the golden class. And this Lin Yi was a super genius who had just become a legend. This was going to be a good show. Mayor Chang, right? Lin Yi looked at Chang Mingwei and said lightly, "You said you want to test my strength?" "That's right. Do you have the guts to deal with my wife and son? But you don't have the guts to accept my challenge?" Chang Mingwei looked at Lin Yi with disdain. He didn't believe that Lin Yi could kill Zhang Zili at all. The more Zhuang Yifan protected him, the more it proved that this guy was hiding something. "It's not that I don't dare. Mayor Chang, please don't misunderstand. I'm just not interested in doing something stupid like this. You want me, an early-stage mystic ascendant, to fight with a late-stage mountain opening master? What do you think my brain is made of, Master Chang?" Lin Yi said with a smile. Rejecting was a natural thing to do. Dealing with Zhang Zili, the weakest early-stage mountain opening master, was already difficult enough. Now he had to face a late-stage mountain opening master with a murderous aura. This wasn't the way to seek death. Of course, your head must be full of shit. Otherwise, how would you dare to make a move on my wife and son? Chang Mingwei laughed coldly. Xin Yan and the others glared at him. But Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly and gestured for the girls to relax. They didn't need to get angry at a time like this. At the end of the day, they were all guests, and Zhuang Yifan was the only host here. "Chang Mingwei, I think you're the one with shit in your head, right?" Zhuang Yifan's expression was unfriendly. He'd already said that Lin Yi was his guest. But Chang Mingwei still dared to speak so rudely in front of everyone. He clearly didn't respect him, the leader of the alliance. "What did you say, Zhuang?" Chang Mingwei's anger exploded. He wouldn't have dared to provoke Zhuang Yifan like this under any other circumstances. But now that he was angry, and he wasn't one to hold back, it was already very good that he was able to hold it in until now. "Hee. What I mean is that you can leave now. Otherwise you'll get yourself into trouble. I'm sure you know what kind of temper I have. What do you say, Leader Chang?" Zhuang Yifan looked at Chang Mingwei with a faint smile. As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind blew in all directions. Everyone was shocked. Chang Mingwei was a late-stage mountain opening expert. If he were to make a move, everyone here would be affected. If it was serious, there might even be a large number of casualties. However, before everyone could escape, the wind stopped again. This time, however, it was not Zhuang Yifan who dissolved it. Chang Mingwei himself suppressed it. "Leader Zhuang, I'll remember what happened today." Chang Mingwei looked at Zhuang Yifan coldly, then glanced at Lin Yi. He was furious, but he hadn't completely lost his mind. If he started a fight here, with Zhuang Yifan's strength, he'd kill him on the spot and get his hands on Cauldron City, the holy land of alchemy. Chapter 4950. Thinking up to this point, Chang Mingwei couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Zhuang Yifan was too terrifying. His strength was unfathomable, and he was unscrupulous when it came to handling matters. Once he got the chance, Chang Mingwei and Cauldron City would definitely be swallowed whole. Take care. Zhuang Yifan's eyes carried a tinge of regret. Chang Mingwei had guessed some of his thoughts. Of course, this was not the result of his careful planning. He was just going with the flow. If Chang Mingwei had presented such a big weakness to him, he would not have held back. Unfortunately, Chang Mingwei was not a simple-minded man. In the end, he chose to control himself. This way, Zhuang Yifan couldn't do anything to him and let him go. Chang Mingwei glared at Lin Yi one last time, like a hungry wolf eyeing a lamb, sending chills down one's spine. He didn't even need to think to know that this guy wouldn't let Lin Yi go. But with Zhuang Yifan's power and influence, he had to suppress it no matter how unwilling he was. Watching Chang Mingwei leave, Zhuang Yifan looked at Lin Yi and reminded him, "I'm sorry for scaring Master Lin, but this leader Chang is known as the Ghost of Death. Even if you get rid of him this time, there will be a next time. Be careful, Master Lin." "Thank you for the reminder, President Zhuang. I understand." Lin Yi nodded. "I think Master Lin should stay for a few more days. At least in this division, no one would dare to mess with you," Zhuang Yifan suggested. "President Zhuang, I appreciate your kindness, but there is no need." Lin Yi declined without hesitation. If he was a little timid, he might have been scared by Chang Mingwei. After all, there was nothing wrong with staying here for a while. Plus, there was Zhuang Yifan, a super master in the advanced stage of the earth-opening realm, to guarantee his safety. But if he was so easily scared, he wouldn't be the Lin Yi he was today. Oh, if that's the case, then Master Lin should be extra careful. Chang Mingwei is someone who can do anything. If Master Lin needs anything, you can call me at any time. I will not refuse. Zhuang Yifan's expression was solemn. He wasn't being insincere, but he was truly afraid that something would happen to Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was the quasi-mystic second-level alchemist that he had bet on. If Lin Yi died, then everything would be in vain. "Thank you, President Zhuang." Lin Yi smiled and said, "It's getting late. I think it's time for us to leave." "Very well. I'll walk Master Lin out." Zhuang Yifan immediately stood up. "There's no need for that. President Zhuang, please wait. See you again." Lin Yi waved his hand and led the way out of the banquet hall under everyone's gaze. He didn't seem to care about Chang Mingwei at all. Although Lin Yi had rejected him a few times, Zhuang Yifan still personally walked them to the main entrance of the Alliance branch before stopping. If not for Lin Yi's repeated rejections, he would definitely have escorted them to the Morning Star treasure ship. "Master Lin, are you sure it's okay for us to leave like this?" "Master Lin, are you sure it's okay for us to leave just like this?" Li Ren turned around and looked at the Alliance branch shrouded in the night. His heart trembled, afraid that Chang Mingwei would come out at any moment. Although they didn't say anything, Lu Ziyu, Wang Xinyan, and the others were all looking at Lin Yi with worried expressions. Being stared at by a magnate late stage of the mountain opening realm was indeed not a good feeling. This sense of danger, as if there was a dagger on one's back, was enough to cause one's spirit to collapse. Not to mention Lin Yi, the person in question, even the few of them couldn't take it. "If I say it's okay, would you believe me?" Lin Yi didn't answer but asked a question instead. "That's impossible. Although I haven't had any dealings with Chang Mingwei, he's known to take revenge for the smallest grievance. Since he's already at his doorstep, he won't let the matter rest." Lu Ziyu's expression was solemn. It was a bit too much for her to deal with Chang Mingwei with her strength. At the mountain opening stage, it was easier said than done to defeat someone stronger. "Indeed, I never thought that he would let me go." Lin Yi chuckled. "Then why did you reject Zhuang Yifan's suggestion?" "From the situation just now, Chang Mingwei is very afraid of him. Staying with him should be very safe. You can hide for a while, and then you can follow Zhuang Yifan to the Morning Star Academy, or the Morning Pride Academy. That way, there won't be any mistakes." Lu Ziyu frowned. From her point of view, although Lin Yi repeatedly gave people unexpected surprises, he still wasn't mature enough when it came to dealing with people. It was probably his arrogance that made him reject Zhuang Yifan's suggestion. But now that his life was at stake, was this the time to be arrogant? Aunt Lu is right. Actually, I was thinking the same thing. But after thinking about it, I still feel that this isn't very good. Lin Yi shook his head. Why not? Wang Xinyan asked. You can only be a thief for 1,000 days. How can you guard against a thief for 1,000 days? Lin Yi looked at them. You mean? Lu Ziyu and the others were shocked by his words. If he really said the meaning behind it, it would really scare them to death. They never thought that Lin Yi would have such thoughts. But then again, if this had happened to someone else, it would indeed be earth-shattering. But when it happened to Lin Yi, he had done many earth-shattering things, so he was naturally used to it. Lin Yi took in everyone's shocked expressions and turned to Li Run. Right. I want to know if the defensive capabilities of the treasured ship can stop a late mountain opening expert. That's hard to say. If it's operating at full power, it shouldn't be a problem. But if it's just docked here like now, with the defensive formations at the lowest level, I think it'll be very difficult. Li Ren thought about it. If that's the case, can I trouble Chancellor Li to help me spread the news that our treasured ship has decided to return to the Morning Star Academy early tomorrow morning? As for the other Morning Star disciples who haven't finished their trials, please let the Academy Alliance bring them along. Is that all right? Lin Yi said as he pinched his chin. No problem, I'll do as Master Lin instructed, Li Ren agreed. He knew that as long as it was Lin Yi's intention, even if he acted on his own, he wouldn't be blamed at all. Moreover, this was only a small matter. Could it be that you're thinking of? Wang Xingyan seemed to be deep in thought. She had already roughly guessed what Lin Yi was thinking. Chapter 4951. The docks. Hui Yudi and the others said in unison. That's right, the docks. And I told Chancellor Li to spread the news that we're returning to Morning Star Academy tomorrow morning. The only time left for them is tonight. Lin Yi paused, his eyes glowing. The time and location are all confirmed. Is there anything more relaxing than this in the world? Everyone fell silent, each and every one of them shocked by Lin Yi's plan. What kind of person was Chang Minggui? A giant realm expert, at the later stage of the mountain opening realm, had actually been caught by him like a fish. Such courage was truly flabbergasting, and even Lu Ziyu was a little shocked by him. But even if you're fishing, you need to have the strength to pull the fish ashore. Chang Minggui is no small matter. If you give him the chance to take the bait, he might be dragged into the sea. Lin Yi, you better think this through. Lu Ziyu reminded him with a serious expression. That's right, so I can't do this alone. I need help. Lin Yi laughed. In the darkness, Chang Minggui stood on the back of the ghost-eyed golden eagle and looked down at the ground. He was almost 100 feet above the ground. The people below could not detect his presence, but he could rely on his powerful divine sense to monitor every movement on the ground. Suddenly, Chang Minggui's eyelid twitched. There was a commotion on the Morning Star Academy's ship. Listening carefully, he realized that they were returning to Morning Star Academy early the next morning. That Lin Brat wants to run? Chang Minggui instantly understood his opponent's intentions. Because he was afraid of Zhuang Yifan, he originally did not want to make a move at this time. Although the docks were some distance from the Alliance's division, it was not too far. Furthermore, in name, it was still the Alliance's territory, which was Zhuang Yifan's territory. He did not dare to make a move on Lin Yi in the banquet hall. In Zhuang Yifan's territory, even if it was not the Alliance's division, he still had to think carefully. Of course, he also knew that the most suitable place for him to make a move was the docks, but not now. He was prepared to find an excuse to lure Zhuang Yifan away from Thunderous Plain Island. Then, he could make a move at the docks without any qualms. Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't give him the chance at all. At this moment, on the deck of the Morning Star Academy's ship, Lin Yi, Wang Xinyan, and the other girls were openly chatting. There was no one else around them, and it seemed like they didn't care about Chang Minggui at all. Is this really okay? Wang Xinyan was a little worried as she looked at Lin Yi. Hui Yudi and Huang Xiaotao were the same. They looked calm on the surface, but their hearts had been hanging in the air ever since they heard about Lin Yi's plan. They were really worried for Lin Yi. It would be fine if they could help Lin Yi, but the key was that the other party was a mountain opening late-stage expert. They who were at the profound ascension early stage did not even have the qualifications to be cannon fodder. Other than worrying, they really did not know what else they could do. I don't know, but we have to give it a try. This is the best opportunity. If we miss this opportunity, it will be hard to get another one. Linny was also not sure, but he had to give it a try no matter what. He couldn't leave such a huge hidden danger. Otherwise, if he was really targeted by a mountain opening late-stage expert, he would not be able to live a peaceful life in the future. But Huayuti still wanted to persuade him. She was not a timid person and had done some risky things alone before. Otherwise, she would not have rashly asked Lin Yi, a stranger, to team up during the West Island trial. It was a very risky choice, but she really did not want to see Lin Yi take risks, not at all. Don't worry, tonight's fishing seems dangerous, but in fact it is relatively safe. If I can't even survive such a good opportunity tonight, then sooner or later I will die in the hands of Chang Mingwei. So this is inevitable. We can only give it our all when the chance of winning is the highest. Only then will we have a chance to win. Otherwise there is no chance of winning at all, Lin Yi said firmly. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao did not speak anymore. They knew that it was useless to persuade him, but Huayuti still wanted to say something. She believed that Lin Yi definitely had more than one method, and definitely had a safer and more stable choice. However, before Huayuti could speak again, Lin Yi suddenly looked serious and said in a deep voice, "The fish has taken the bait." Before he finished speaking, a giant wind blade condensed from the wind whistled down from the sky, smashing into the treasured boat from above. Light flashed above Lin Yi and the others' heads, silently blocking the giant wind blade. This was the treasured boat's protective formation. But immediately after, another enormous wind blade followed closely behind, and the treasured ship's defensive formation flickered for a moment before shattering with a bang. Although it had already blocked most of its power, the treasured ship still shook violently, and the surrounding sea surface exploded with enormous waves that were several dozen feet tall. Indeed, it was as Li Run had said, but this level of defensive formation could not stop a late-stage mountain opening expert. "You guys be careful. Don't interfere." Lin Yi's voice was still echoing on the boat, but his entire body instantly shot out, rushing down the treasured boat with lightning speed, rushing in the direction of the Alliance branch. You still want to find Zhuang Yifan to save you at this time? Do you think you can escape the Alliance branch? Accompanied by a violent gust of wind, Chang Mingwei coldly snorted and landed on the dock, quickly chasing after Lin Yi. So fast! Feeling the terrifying aura rapidly approaching behind him, Lin Yi could not help but feel frightened. At this time, he was already using his full strength. Not only did he use the extreme butterfly subtle steps, but he also used the vital energy jet technique. This could be said to be his current extreme speed. If compared horizontally, this speed was even faster than Zhang Zili in the early stage of the mountain opening realm. At least when he was dealing with Zhang Zili, he did not go all out. Just the extreme butterfly subtle steps was enough to make Zhang Zili run around in circles. But compared to Chang Mingwei behind him, the difference was much greater than a tortoise and a rabbit. Although they were both giants in the mountain opening realm, Chang Mingwei and Zhang Zili were obviously not on the same level. The former was in the late stage of the mountain opening realm, while the latter was in the early stage. Furthermore, he was an alchemist in the late stage of the mountain opening realm. The difference in strength was not 100 times, but at least a few dozen times. The two of them could not be compared at all. As expected, he is a big fish that wants to kill people. Lin Yi sighed in his heart, but he did not dare to relax at all. Originally, he would be caught by the other party in a minute. If he was distracted, it would be no different from courting death. Chapter 4952. You run pretty fast, but you want to show off your speed in front of me. A wind elemental giant? Did you take the wrong medicine? Chang Mingwei's laughter sounded in his ear. Chang Mingwei actually didn't need to get this close. With his strength, he could easily take a person's head from 100 meters away, but he felt that doing this would be too easy on Lin Yi. To vent his anger, he wanted to crush Lin Yi's body with his own hands. letting him die in endless pain and torment. This was the only way he could make an example out of Chang Minggui, letting the world see the consequences of messing with him. He really was a wind elemental giant. Lin Yi had already expected this. Every time Chang Minggui appeared or attacked, there would be a violent gust of wind. It was reasonable for him to be so fast. After all, the wind elemental was a rare mutated spirit root, and it was known for its speed. Huang Xiaotao was an example. In the next instant, Chang Minggui did not even use any martial technique. He raised his hand and grabbed at Lin Yi's neck. If he, a late-stage mountain opening cultivator, had to use his signature martial technique to deal with a mere Lin Yi, it would be too much of a joke. At this time, he was only 5 feet away from Lin Yi. His whole body was almost stuck to Lin Yi's back like a shadow. It was impossible for Lin Yi to get rid of him. However, Lin Yi had never thought that he could get rid of his opponent with just speed. Just as Chang Minggui's hand was about to grab him, Lin Yi suddenly turned around and raised his hand, releasing a 7-elemental 5-elemental killing intent. Putting aside the level of strength, the 5-elemental killing intent was already an extremely profound martial technique. Now that it had fused with the ice and mist elemental attributes, it was even more difficult to defend against. Zhang Zili's previous embarrassment was a clear proof. Of course, Lin Yi did not expect this move to cause any real trouble for Chang Minggui. That was not realistic at all. He only had one goal in doing this, and that was to delay his opponent as much as possible. Following a deep dragon roar, the killing intent of the 7 elements rushed towards Chang Minggui without any suspense. It was a direct hit, and even Chang Minggui didn't have time to react. Lin Yi was overjoyed. He was originally worried that this move would not hit his opponent. After all, this was a late-stage mountain opening expert, and his speed was terrifying. He did not expect it to be so easy. It seemed like his opponent was very careless. Of course, no matter who it was inevitable to underestimate a profound ascension early-stage cultivator. Chang Minggui was instantly surrounded by the 7-elemental 5-elemental killing intent. Lin Yi did not seek to kill, only to stop his opponent. He knew that the power of the 5-elemental killing intent might not be able to do anything to his opponent, but with the ice elemental energy mixed in, it should be enough to slow down his opponent's movement technique, just like when he was fighting against Zhang Zili. Lin Yi did not look at how Chang Minggui would react. Without saying anything, he turned and left, his movement technique once again reaching its peak. However, before he could take 2 steps, he suddenly heard Chang Minggui's mocking snort. "You think you can beat my wife like that with just this little bit of skill?" The jade pendant's warning rang out crazily. Lin Yi did not have time to be shocked, and subconsciously rolled to the side. Although he looked very miserable, he managed to dodge an invisible wind blade in the nick of time. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat. As expected of a late-stage mountain opening magnate, this Chang Minggui was too terrifying. The 7-elemental 5-elemental killing intent could not even stop him at all. If not for the jade pendant's warning, Lin Yi's head might have already been separated from his body. Your vigilance is quite high. However, with your insignificant strength, I really can't see how you can match up to an early-stage mountain opening expert. It seems like I guessed correctly. Zhuang Yifan must have done something behind this. Chang Minggui was more and more convinced of his conjecture. After this exchange, he was certain that although Lin Yi was not weak, it was impossible for him to beat Zhang Zili like that. There must be something fishy behind this. Of course, Lin Yi would not clarify things like this. From his point of view, it was better for Chang Minggui to put all the blame on Zhuang Yifan. It would be best if Zhuang Yifan had no choice but to make a move, and then he would not have to waste so much effort trying to survive. Unfortunately, even if Chang Minggui suspected Zhuang Yifan, there was no way he would let Lin Yi go. No matter what, Lin Yi was the reason his wife and son ended up like this. So no matter what, Lin Yi had to die tonight. Of course, Lin Yi would not be so naive, so after he awkwardly dodged his opponent's invisible wind blade, he continued to run in the direction of the Alliance's division. This was a plan he had made long ago, and he could not fail. You think you can escape?" Chang Mingwei frowned when he saw this. Both of them were extremely fast. Although they had only fought for a short time, they were only halfway to the Alliance's division. If they got too close, Zhuang Yifan would definitely be alerted. If that happened, not only would he not be able to kill Lin Yi, he might even get himself killed. With a thought, Chang Mingwei's body was surrounded by strong winds, and a small tornado quickly formed. It enveloped both him and Lin Yi, who was 10 feet away. Lin Yi felt as if he had sunk into quicksand. Under the pull of the strong wind, he couldn't even take a single step forward, let alone maintain his original speed. Chang Mingwei's voice drifted in the tornado. One moment it felt like he was 100 miles away, and the next moment it felt like he was right next to his ear. Kid, I suddenly don't feel like killing you. If you can testify that Zhuang Yifan was the one who attacked my wife, I will be merciful and let you live. How about that? Lin Yi froze when he heard this, but he quickly understood what Chang Mingwei meant. It seemed like this life-paying ghost looked down on a small fry like him, and was going to use this as a pretext to attack Zhuang Yifan. Indeed, Chang Mingwei had always been dissatisfied with Zhuang Yifan. Since Zhuang Yifan would use this opportunity to attack Cauldron City, then he, Chang Mingwei, could naturally do the same. Although it was not very realistic to attack Zhuang Yifan with his own strength and status, Zhuang Yifan was not invincible. As long as he went to the Mystic Sea region and found some people, he might be able to deal with Zhuang Yifan. If he was lucky, he might even be able to become the Alliance's leader. Really? That sounds good. But who knows if you'll burn the bridge after crossing it? Besides, what kind of person is Zhuang Yifan? I'm just a small shrimp. Going against him? Wouldn't that be suicide? Lin Yi said with a cold smile. Chapter 4953. Is that so? Lin Yi smiled disapprovingly. This place is not far from the Alliance division. Aren't you afraid of Zhuang Yifan noticing you've made such a big commotion? You, a late-stage mountain opening stage master, are just like an ant in front of him, right? No need to provoke me. I can't beat him. But do you think this move of mine will make a big commotion? Ha 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 ha. Open your eyes and see what's going on outside, idiot. Chang Mingwei couldn't stop laughing. He'd even weakened the tornado to let Lin Yi see it clearly. Lin Yi glanced outside. He thought that since the opponent used such a powerful move like tornado, it would affect a large area. However, what he saw shocked him. The tornado was only between him and Chang Mingwei. Outside of this area, there was no earth-shattering sound. Instead, it was silent. Not even a speck of sand was stirred up. This scene made Lin Yi jump. This meant that this was far from the opponent's true strength. It was very likely that it was not even 10% of the opponent's true strength. It was just like a cat playing with a mouse. How about it, kid? Now you should understand your situation. Whether you want to live or die, make up your own mind. My patience is very limited. Chang Mingwei's figure slowly walked closer. Is that so? I'm quite patient. It's rare for me to meet a late-phase master like you. How could I just let things end so hastily? Lin Yi smiled calmly, and without waiting for the other to react, he struck out with a palm. Following a majestic dragon roar, a never-before-seen killing intent of the 5 elements appeared. Even Chang Mingwei, who was behind, was shocked. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Qi turning into form? No, Qi turning into spirit." Strictly speaking, the 5 elements killing intent was Qi turning into spirit. Although this was very rare for a mysterious ascending stage master, there were many geniuses in the East Continent who could grasp this technique. However, the 5 elements killing intent in front of him did not simply form a dragon. It had form and spirit. It was like a real dragon. Not only was it a lifelike shape that was completely identical to the flood dragon, the key point was that there was an indescribable mysterious thing circulating within it. It was as if this flood dragon formed from the 5 elements killing Qi had been injected with vitality. If one were to carefully examine it, they would discover that this thing had shockingly formed an extremely profound pattern, the Fuxi 8 trigrams. Qi turning into spirit was simply turning Qi into a shape. No matter how much it looked like a dragon, it was just a form. However, Qi turning into spirit was different. After being injected with this mysterious energy, it became a real 8 trigrams dragon. If Lin Yi was strong enough, he'd be able to replenish it endlessly, and this 8 trigrams flood dragon could exist in this world forever. In time, it had become a new powerful spirit beast. Such a profound method, even Chang Mingwei, a late-stage mountain opening stage master, could not grasp it. At most, he had only reached the level of Qi turning into spirit. As for Qi turning into spirit, he had never even thought about it. Chang Mingwei was stunned, but Lin Yi didn't notice it at all. In fact, he didn't even know what pure Qi was. The new form of the 5 elements in front of him had shocked him, but in his eyes, it was just an upgraded version of the 7 elements, the 8 elements of the 5 elements. To be more precise, it should be called the 5 elements 8 trigrams killing aura. This was something that he had been thinking hard about after his fight with Zhang Zili, and finally came up with in a flash of inspiration. He arranged the 8 attributes according to the Fuxi 8 trigrams, in order to balance the strongest lightning attribute and the other 7 attributes. Finally, he displayed it in the form of the 5 elements killing aura. After the 8 trigrams flood dragon appeared, it pierced through the tornado in an instant. Lin Yi was overjoyed to see this, and immediately ran with all his might. "You're looking to die," Chang Mingwei finally reacted. In that moment of shock, he had given up on controlling the tornado. Otherwise, even if the 8 trigrams dragon was much stronger than the 7 elements killing intent, it wouldn't have been able to pierce through it so easily, and Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to escape so easily. The wind howled. In his anger, Chang Mingwei no longer cared if he would alert Zhuang Yifan or Lin Yi to testify against Zhuang Yifan. He only had one thought in his mind, and that was to kill Lin Yi. As long as he killed Lin Yi right away, it wouldn't matter even if Zhuang Yifan was alerted. Zhuang Yifan wouldn't go to the extent of fighting him to the death over a dead man. Plus, even if he couldn't beat Zhuang Yifan in a fight, he could still escape with his life. Chang Mingwei's speed was many times faster than before. He instantly caught up to Lin Yi, who had just put some distance between them. At that moment, the 8 trigrams dragon didn't disappear. Instead, it suddenly appeared from the side and went straight for Chang Mingwei's back. If it was anyone else, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. However, Chang Mingwei didn't even turn his head. Suddenly, wind blades appeared around him. The 8 trigrams dragon didn't even get close to him, and was instantly torn to pieces. Not only that, but even Lin Yi himself wasn't able to escape the attack. The wind blades that were flying in all directions cut into his left shoulder, and the wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. His entire shoulder was almost cleanly sliced off. Chang Mingwei suddenly appeared in front of Lin Yi with a fierce killing intent on his face. Lin Yi could fight evenly with Zhang Zili, who was in the early stage of the mountain opening realm, but in front of him, who was in the late stage of the mountain opening realm, he was so weak that he couldn't even withstand a single blow. "I will slowly cut you to death 1 slash at a time. I wonder how long you can last. 100 slashes, 200 slashes, or 300 slashes." Chang Mingwei laughed coldly. He looked at Lin Yi's expression and said, "Don't think that you can alarm Zhuang Yifan. Even if you really do attract his attention, you'll only die faster." "Ha ha ha ha. Is that so? You're really that confident that I can't escape from your grasp?" Lin Yi stopped in his tracks. There wasn't a hint of fear on his face. Instead, there was an indescribable feeling of relief, as if he had completed some important plan. "You think you can escape? You don't even know that you're about to die. How can there be such an idiot who thinks he's smart like you?" Chang Mingwei pretended to look at Lin Yi with pity. His finger moved slightly, and countless invisible wind blades whistled towards Lin Yi. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.